Good evening to you. Welcome to our special election night coverage here on NewsMax. A big night, a lot to get to. I'm Sean Kreisman. Thank you so much for joining us. It is the hour we've all been waiting for. The first polls closing at 6 p.m. Eastern time. This in parts of Indiana and Kentucky as well. It is now 7 p.m. Eastern time, and now we're looking to key swing states like Florida and this year Georgia, where results should start coming in at any moment. A lot to get to. Very excited. We do have a team of correspondents and some of the top political minds in America joining us right here in the studio. Excited to have everyone here today. We've got pollster Jim McLaughlin, former State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert, and political analyst Mark Halperin joining us live. And folks, this is just the beginning as we take everyone through the evening here. I hope everyone got sleep. This is going to be a long one here. I know, Jim, I know you got a little bit of a nap earlier. At least hopefully you did, because we may be here a minute.
Yeah, no, and I haven't slept in probably 2 months.
Oh, perfect.
But you know what? That's great. We're ready, and we're ready to stay up all night.
We are. The coffee machine's on for you, by the way. If we do have a look at some of the polling, because I know a few polling locations have closed, and this is a lot of folks have been waiting on this one here. The first one here, Indiana. President Trump right now in the lead. You can see only 6% of the votes are in. So pay attention to our screen. I just want to set this up for everyone at home. We will be here all night until we can get the most information as possible. We may have a little bit of issues with Pennsylvania. We may have a little bit of issues with North Carolina as well. But nevertheless, we'll bring that to you. But there we go, 6%. You saw President Trump in the lead there in the great state of Indiana. Heather, I'll come to you on this one here. As we see these polling locations close, there are some of these states that are already baked in for the Republican Party, for our incumbent.
Yes, there's certainly some states that we anticipate President Trump is going to do very, very well. And so those are the ones that Republicans are keeping their fingers crossed for and are really excited about. But there are also some states that we need to keep a very close eye on. North Carolina, Florida, of course, and Georgia. So anxious to hear what will happen. Those are the states where they've been able to start counting those early votes ahead of time. So those are the ones that we need to watch as the polls close earlier tonight.
Mark Halperin, this is something I've been monitoring. I know you've been sending us emails all day long. You've kind of had your ear to the ground and a little inside information. What do we know so far overall about how this is going with Trump and Biden?
There's an extraordinary number of competitive states. This has been a divided country. If you look at the national polling and the environment that a lot of the press has created, you would think we were headed for a landslide. And we might be headed for a comfortable Biden win. But those 8 states will tell the tale tonight, and most of them are exceedingly close. Both sides say they're going to win all of them or most of them. The president's got to win them all. He runs the table. He's reelected.
And you know, another thing that stood out to me, what you just said, is it could be a comfortable win for Biden. Polling shows that, Jim. You would know this better than anyone else. You've seen this, and so many people that support President Trump, they say these are fake polls. I know you've heard it. You endure. You go on. Tell me about the polling and what we're seeing right now.
It's deja vu all over again from 4 years ago. I think most people that are being honest, they knew this race was going to be close. Just like Mark said, there's 8 states that are really, really close now, and just with a couple points can go either way. That's why we felt, the press was trying to, say this was going to be a landslide Joe Biden victory. You know what? Now the American people speak. And I say this as a pollster. We talk way too much about polls. We don't talk enough about issues. And I think the fact that the president over the last couple of weeks, starting with his great debate performance, was able to talk about issues, I think it gave him a real advantage and gave him a lot of momentum at the end.
When Jim says great debate performance, he means the second debate. Just to be clear, the president's closed stronger than Joe Biden has. He's had more events. He's done better after the second debate than he did after the first debate, and that gives him what you want at the end of a campaign when you're behind, momentum.
Heather, what do you think about that?
Yeah, when you watch those debates side by side, you watch President Trump's, and there's a lot of enthusiasm. It's a more optimistic message. That's not what the media would want you to think. That's not what Democrats would want you to think. But you watch that and you compare that to Joe Biden's, and it's a bummer to watch a Joe Biden debate or a campaign rally. And I think a lot of Americans are going to use that as a takeaway today.
A lot to get to, a lot going on, folks. And, of course, Edward Robinson standing by for us as well. She's at the White House right now. I believe to see you now. Yeah, good, Emerald, good to see you. This is a huge night. Tell me what you know about the East Room. I understand there's some 400 people turning out tonight. And this one, the president undoubtedly excited about.
Yeah, we will see the president speak a little later tonight. The original guest count was supposed to be 400. There's some reports that it could have been dropped now to 250. No confirmation on that from the White House. I asked the campaign, didn't really get an answer. But what we are hearing from them is that they still feel very positive. That's from 2 direct senior campaign officials that I spoke to. And then we also had a phone call just a short time ago where we heard from the senior campaign officials, including campaign manager Bill Stepien, about how they're feeling at this point. Now, I have to say, Bill did sound genuinely positive about where they are right now. In fact, the campaign saying that they feel better about where they are at this point in the 2020 election than they felt at the same point in 2016. And they're saying that's because Democrats expected the composition of voters from the to look the same as it did in the 2016 election cycle, and they're saying that's not the case, citing rally data from the last few weeks that pointed to about 20 to 25% of rally goers on average who had never voted or did not vote in the 2016 election cycle, suggesting that they're going to have new voters come out for the president in this election cycle. They're also saying that they're seeing signs that the Democrats cannibalize their election day turnout in early voting and mail-in voting, and that Democrat turnout is not where it needs to be at this point to really secure a Joe Biden win. They're pointing to areas like Arizona, saying what they're seeing happening is exactly what they expected to happen. They've also pointed out to high voter turnout in Pennsylvania and even Michigan, saying that they feel like it's really good for the president. But we've talked a lot about Pennsylvania, and there was a lot of focus on that from the Trump campaign tonight. They say that what we're seeing on the ground by the Biden campaign trying to turn out more voters is because they're seeing the numbers that the Trump campaign is seeing, and they're suggesting that the Biden camp is worried about Pennsylvania. Now, we did hear a little bit from the president. He's saying on Twitter that, he feels like things are looking good all over the country. So admitting positivity, at least publicly.
Yeah, it's going to be a long night. I know all of us are paying attention to it. I know you are as well. NewsMax White House correspondent Edward Robinson joining us live from the White House. Thank you very much, Emerald. Don't forget, you at home can follow along on our interactive election site. That is newsmax.com. You can get the latest results and projections if you're out and about. It's a great thing to grab there. All right, moving along now. We are moving on to Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia joining us live on the show here. Congressman, a lot of us are watching this presidential election. I know you are too, but you've got your own sights set on your own race as well. How are you feeling tonight?
Hey, we're feeling great down here in Georgia. Turnout has been great. Republican turnout has been great. When you look across the different areas of our state, and I know that y'all talked about that a little bit earlier in polls and everything else, the sites in Georgia where the president needs turnout, we need turnout, David Bernier needs turnout, have really come out heavy in the early voting and have also shown up pretty consistently on day of. So we feel good about Georgia. I know that there's a lot of talk about Biden. There's a lot of talk about other things down here, Ossoff and others. But I think what we're going to see tonight is Georgia staying on that conservative side of the ledger.
What are you seeing tonight as far as your campaign is going? Are you going to be posted up there? Are you out and about? Do you have folks with you?
Yeah, we're here at tonight. We're camped in here at Lake Lanier Islands. We're going to be apart for the rest of the evening, and we're just watching these results come in. And so far, the day's been really good. So we're excited about where we're at.
Talk to me about the presidential race. I know obviously you're watching this as well. It's a busy night for you as well. How do you think the president performs? How does he do in Georgia? There's a lot of talk about your state, sir, and how this one could go either way. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, over the last 17 days, I've spent 4,000 miles just in the state of Georgia. And I'll tell you what I'm seeing. I'm seeing all over the place that people are coming up there supportive of this president. You go out into the middle of farm country, you come into suburbia, and all of a sudden you see 4 Trump flags. You see there's just an excitement building. I was at his Macon event. I was at his Rome event. You see crowds coming. They're excited about this president. They like this president. They believe this president has their best interest at heart. So I think it's really interesting to me, and we've seen this a little bit in polling here in Georgia. The pollings do typically DMAs, or just the areas around the television markets. And when you get outside of it and you start polling congressional districts, you start taking in a balancing a little bit more approach, you're actually seeing the president do very well, which is what you're seeing Republicans do well in Georgia. So let's see how it goes tonight. I mean, Georgia is a state that which Republicans have to compete in. We can't just sit back and be complacent, but I do feel good about where we're at tonight.
All right, Congressman Doug Collins of Georgia, we appreciate the time. Thank you very much, and good luck to you. We do have one result already coming in here, and this is how it begins here. First, we have Ted Deutsch and Jim Pruden here with the incumbent projected to win this one here from the Decision Desk headquarters, this in Florida District 22. This in Florida District 22. So we do have an incumbent called now. Again, there on your screen. It is going to be a long night. We'll continue to follow this. But again, that's called at 17% of the votes already in this one in Florida. Florida's a big one here, and that's what we're going to watch continue throughout the night. We've got another congressman joining me now, Dan Bishop of North Carolina on the line. And just want to remind everyone we are waiting for actual results before we call any races. So just to be clear on that. So stick around for all of the information coming in. Congressman, good to see you. I just got off with the Georgia Congressman as well. I know we're bouncing around here to North Carolina. How are you feeling tonight, sir?
I feel terrific. It was great to hear from Doug there on your air. And, you know, in North Carolina, similar to what Doug expressed, I've joined the rallies that President Trump has had very recently in Gastonia, North Carolina, and down in Fayetteville just yesterday, and sandwiched in between. He did one in Hickory that had, I don't know, close to 30,000 people there. This energy that you see in President Trump's campaign is undeniable. But, you know, we see the indications of a variety of pieces of data going back and forth. And as for me, I'm just delighted that I'm very excited about tonight. I'm sort of taking a break between campaigning all day at polling sites and meeting voters as they came to vote, and then going to our election eve venue where we'll spend several hours with supporters and watch the returns develop. So it's just a very exciting time. I think the president's done very well. We've campaigned hard. We've cast a vision for America that's about courage, confidence, and strength. And I'm delighted to have been a part of that and look forward to seeing what the voters say.
Congressman, share with me any details. I don't know if you have any update. Do you have any internal polling? What is your campaign saying? What is your opponent saying? What have you heard? Do you feel confident about tonight?
I do. I will say that what we've seen in North Carolina, and I've heard this story repeated in a number of other places, is that we've seen early voting turnout percentages slightly better for Republicans against both Democrats and unaffiliated than we have in prior years, and so that's an encouraging piece of data. But we also know from polls that have been taken throughout the campaign of our own and polls we've seen publicly that this is going to be a very close election. There are some who've assumed in my race that mine's not going to be very close. I can tell them that it is going to be close. And so we just have to see. We've had in North Carolina a couple little election day snags, but they're minor. We're going to get the results starting about 8:15. And as you mentioned, North Carolina's critical state in the picture for President
It
Trump.
absolutely is. We're going to continue to watch that. Congressman Dan Bishop, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. North Carolina's huge Senate race there as well. We'll continue to follow that. Thank you, Congressman.
Thanks much.
All right, Emma Reckenberg is standing by. She is following some of the reaction on social media right now. She is the co-host of National Report. Emma Reckenberg, take it away.
Hey, Sean, of course, we are monitoring social media along with the growing number of protesters at BLM Plaza in D.C. right now. NewsMax contributor James Klug is reporting this on Twitter, saying breaking, MPD officers have made at least one arrest at BLM Plaza for refusing to vacate the area so an illegally parked vehicle can be moved. Now, we also want to show you this video. It's going to show the scene where the demonstrators are gathering here. We see some law enforcement members as well, a bit of an outbreak going on with some people not following the laws here. Now, we will be monitoring the situation as it develops and updating you throughout the night. Meantime, here's the latest from the Trump campaign communications director, who is feeling optimistic about voter turnout for the president. We'll show you this tweet saying, turnout is high where real Donald Trump needs it to be high, and we need it to stay high. It's a tight race in state after state. If you're in line, stay in line. Now, the president of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, also feeling positive for the president, saying this: record voter turnout across the board, many turning out for real Donald Trump. Remind me again how Republicans are suppressing the vote. He sent that tweet out. Speaking of voter suppression, we're hearing of issues with voting machines accepting ballots in Scranton, Pennsylvania, of all places. I want to show you this video posted by Social Media Research Council. Watch this.
The second of two voting machines is being fixed by a quote-unquote technician. A lot of people are expressing concerns about social distancing or lack thereof. There are a lot of elderly people here sitting down. This is not okay. This is not America.
And we will keep monitoring social media as the night progresses with reactions as the polls close as well. But for now, Sean, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Emma Reckenberg, always good to see you, Emma. Okay, as we go to break right now, we'll give you a live look at Wilmington, Delaware, the Biden campaign out there. You can see the Biden-Harris signs up, and Adam, will they take a victory lap tonight? This is going to be a long one, folks. Buckle up. NewsMax got you covered. Be right back after this.
America demanded change.
Donald Trump wins the presidency.
And change is what we got. Under President Trump, America is stronger, safer, and more prosperous than ever before.
Whoa!
Look at that. The economy growing at a record 33.1%.
And these numbers are absolutely remarkable.
Latinos and women saw the biggest decreases in unemployment rate.
And ladies and gentlemen, the best is yet to come. I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
All right, welcome back to our special election coverage here on NewsMax. A lot to get to, and we're glad you're here along for the ride. We're happy to have Sean Spicer joining us now. He's a co-host of Spicer & Company, as well as Mark Halperin, our political analyst, and Heather Nauert, former State Department spokeswoman. She is also joining us as well. All right, let's talk about this. We're still waiting on results to come in. And this is going to be an all-night thing, but there's a little bit trickling in Indiana, Kentucky, specifically Kentucky, that'll bring up now the Senate race in Kentucky, where McConnell's up on this, the incumbent there, against Amy McGrath. 10% of the votes in, but Amy's up. McGrath is up 55% to McConnell's 42%. Sean, I divert to you on this. 10% in. Any weight to this so far?
No. I think, look, I think that the Democrats don't see this one as a big one. I think McGrath may keep it closer than McConnell's previous races, but I think Mitch McConnell safely gets reelected to the United States Senate.
Mark?
I agree with Sean. There's no danger for them in that race. It's early, but you never know where it comes in. Kentucky sometimes reports the Republican parts first, sometimes the Democrats. I suspect this year the Democrats.
Sometimes you get these big cities that report precincts or parts of them in first, whether it's Lexington, and that will skew what you see, especially the rural parts of the state where McConnell and other states where this is going to be the case too. The rural parts are where Republicans are going to do better tend in some cases to come in later in the night.
Right. So don't put any weight
early on in the cycle, there was some thought he might be endangered. The Democrats nominated the candidate that Chuck Schumer wanted. Mitch McConnell is a political assassin, and he set his sights on his opponent, and it hasn't been a race for a couple months.
And let's also keep in mind that President Trump carried the state with 62% of the vote in the last election. And so much of what voters there care about are things that the president speaks to, whether it's the drug addiction problem throughout our country, also in Kentucky, Indiana, states like that. Also, the forgotten American worker. The president has really spoken to so many of those people. So I think we'll have a good night for the president in Kentucky.
Sean, what other Senate races are we looking at? Obviously, we're going to be watching the presidential election the entire night, but there's so much going on. You've got the balance of power with the Senate. What are the other races you're looking for?
Well, interesting. It's not just what, but how, right? So you've got basically two that Republicans are on offense on. In Alabama, Tommy Tuberville is taking on Doug Jones, the Democratic incumbent. I think that's going to be the solid Republican pickup tonight. The other one that Republicans really feel good about tonight is John James in Michigan taking on incumbent first-term Senator Gary Peters. Republicans feel really good, especially today, about John James's chances. And if he picks that up, it gives McConnell a big cushion as the Senate Republican leader tonight. But you're also looking at two races in Georgia. You're looking at that. Doug Collins was on that one. Kelly Loeffler's the appointed incumbent in that race right now. Neither one are expected to come anywhere close to the 50% that they would need to not go to a runoff. But then you've also got Senator David Perdue, the Republican who is in cycle, up in a tight re-election. So you're going to be keeping an eye on two races there. Then you go north. You got Tom Tillis in North Carolina, Senator Joni Ernst in Iowa, Susan Collins in Maine, and the list goes on. It's Republicans that are on defense tonight in the Senate.
One of the states we're looking for back to the presidential election is Florida. Florida's the big one. That's what we're going to watch out because it may be an indicator, if you will. And we do have some early numbers here. Actually, big numbers. 55% of the votes in Florida. President Trump, it's probably the biggest news we've got so far. 47%. Joe Biden up 52%. 5-point bump for Joe Biden. 55% of votes in here. Sean, does this worry you?
No, because that largely tracks a lot of early vote right now. And I think that the president's team needed a healthy in-person vote, which they need in a lot of these states, Pennsylvania among them. But that vote is actually pretty good for the president. If he's not that far behind, he can overcome that with same-day voters. That's what they're counting on today, and I'll tell you, throughout the day, they have gotten more and more confident in their ability to carry Florida and carry it decisively tonight.
That's the biggest news of the day in the presidential, of what we know. Right now, we're flying blind largely in all the states that are going to be the battlegrounds. What Sean said is correct. Florida started the day. The Republicans thought they could win it. The Democrats said they were going to win it. Now, right now, you'd say the president's favored to win Florida. Based on the data that's come in, despite those returns, there are counties where the president is outperforming his performance from 4 years ago against Hillary Clinton. And I would say right now, the big story of the day that we know about is that the president is the favored right now to carry Florida, which would be a big moment.
Mark, I'm curious about something you said. Certain counties, he's outperforming based on what he did 4 years ago. Which counties are those now?
Primarily, right now, what we know about is Miami-Dade.
Really? That's significant.
With the returns that are already in.
Do you think that is Latino voters
That's
coming out? I mean, that's what he's been going for.
And potentially African-American vote as well. The Democrats have been worried about Miami-Dade, biggest county in the state, with African-American vote, with Hispanics from both Cuba and from Venezuela. And this would be an important psychological moment for the president and practical
for our viewers at home. Let me just jump in really quick. This is a live look at the White House. These are protesters outside of the White House. You may remember earlier in the news cycle, you may have heard that they put a fence up that you cannot go over, essentially. It's a big wall that you're not able to go over, already in precautions of what could be a violent night. And this is the sub-story to this entire night. Will violence happen? Will riots happen as well? That remains to be seen. Media set up there.
Sean, just a little bit of context to that shot for viewers. That's Black Lives Matter Plaza. That is 16th Street in Washington, D.C. In front of it, what you're seeing is Lafayette Park, and then obviously behind that is the White House. But you're going to see that crowd grow bigger and bigger tonight. And that is a gathering spot for a lot of folks right now. We saw that after the president gave that RNC speech. You're going to see it again tonight. But just to give you some perspective, the city has shut down a lot of these roads and avenues coming into the main hub right there at the White House. So I think you're going to see large number of people protesting there and potentially here in New York City.
All right, I want to jump in really quick. We got to get to Greg Kelly. He's standing by for us right now. Greg Kelly is the host of Greg Kelly Reports right here on NewsMax. Greg, I know your show. You've been talking about this night, and here it is.
Sure, and I think you're doing a great job, by the way. I'll be back tomorrow night, but I think what your guests are talking about right now is huge, and let's revisit it. You got Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer saying that it's looking very, very good for Florida. So that's very, very significant. I just got three things to say because I'm just watching this like everybody else. Number one, there are going to be some surprises. I have sensed this for months that there will be a state. I predicted New Jersey. I don't know, but some wild out of the blue state that nobody sees coming that's going to flip red. Also, you can't pull a fast one on the American people. You can't. And I do not think the American people have been satisfied with Joe Biden's lack of an explanation regarding the developments over Hunter Biden and his laptop. They have not been satisfied by his lack of response or the media's lack of curiosity. And finally, riots and Democrats, that's a very, very bad combination, and it scares a lot of people. I voted, by the way, uneventfully, but in my neighborhood, I have seen multiple riots over the summer, and then I saw another one over the weekend. This is starting to touch people in a very, very direct way. And in my gut, again, you've got the experts there. I really think this is going to be a spectacularly big night for the president.
Absolutely. Greg Kelly, always good to see you, sir. Enjoy the evening. We'll check in with you in just a bit. Thanks so much, Greg. I'll bring in former Republican Congressman of Ohio, Bob McEwen, joining us live now. I'm sure he's got to weigh in on this one. Ohio is a big one here, sir. It's good to see you. I know you're fired up about tonight. What do you expect Ohio to do? Another big swing state in this night.
Well, I think you can count on it. You know, Ohio for many, many years was one that was just a bellwether state. The way that it went was the way the country went. But with Donald Trump, those Reagan Democrats have become Trump Democrats. And it's just he carried 80 of the 88 counties by 60% or more 4 years ago. And he carried it by 8%. He'll carry it by at least 5% or more tonight. It's not a question.
So Ohio, you think, is going to take this thing. What are you watching out for, sir? Just across the board here, do you see any blue states flipping to red, and which ones could they be?
Well, you know about the safety of the ballots around Philadelphia. And of course, our next door neighbor, Pittsburgh, for the first time in a long, long time, the Post endorsed Trump. And so the western part of Pennsylvania will go with Ohio, I believe. And so as long as there's not too much damage is done in the Philadelphia stealing of ballots, I think we can carry Pennsylvania as well. If that's the case, it's game, set, match.
I got to ask you the last question here. Governor Kasich, I saw him earlier on CNN. What's he doing? He seems to be against his own political party.
Well, you know, there were the establishment. There were the people that really didn't like Donald Trump. They've exposed themselves. I think tonight we're going to be shed of them. I think one of the reasons that Donald Trump did so extremely well in 2016 was that John Kasich spent much of his time attacking the president day after day after day, including the chairman of the party. And I believe that his viciousness towards Donald Trump told Democrats in Youngstown and Steubenville and Akron, where Republicans had never carried anything in the last century. And Donald Trump carried those areas 2-1. I cannot help but believe the attacks from John Kasich against Donald Trump got votes for him from the now Trump Democrats.
All right, we'll leave it right there. Bob McEwen of Ohio, good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the evening.
Great to be with you, Sean. Thank you.
You too, always. All right, time now, 7:28 Eastern time. Let's take a look at when the swing state polls are closing. You've got Florida and Georgia. They closed about 28 minutes ago. Those are the big ones there. Ohio, North Carolina, also a major player here at 7:30, so just about a couple of minutes. Again, if you are in line, your family members in line, they can stay in line as long as they're there before the polls close. 8 p.m. for Michigan and Pennsylvania. PA is going to be the key player. We've watched a lot of that. 9 p.m. Eastern time for Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Arizona. So we'll continue to watch out for those as well. And as soon as they close, we'll continue to bring you any results that we get. Stay with us. Our live coverage of the election 2020 continues as we go to break right now. A live look outside the White House as we showed you earlier there. Protesters gathered outside. As Sean Spicer was saying earlier, this may continue through the night. Our eyes are on this and the polls. You're watching NewsMax. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Polls just closing in the battleground state of Georgia. The race there still too close to call. It's very important we do so to get accuracy before we are the first. You want to make sure this is correct. So before any results come in, we won't call any races until we know the exact results here. Florida on the screen here. This is the one that we've been talking about, the indicator of how this election would go. 74, look at the right of your screen, 74% of the votes are in. Donald Trump sits at 48%. Joe Biden sits at 51% at this time. Let's bring on our panelists here. Mark Halpern, I know we were talking about this in the break here. New York Times just put out something about Florida.
They now give the president over a 93% chance of winning Florida. They're not infallible, but look, it's great to look at real vote, right? That's what matters. But the real vote can be misleading. Looking at where the president's doing well as compared to against Hillary Clinton, better with Cuban Americans, better with Venezuelan Americans, better with African Americans, and in some districts he's performing significantly better than he did 4 years ago. Joe Biden's doing better with older voters than Hillary Clinton did. But right now, again, as we said last segment, the most significant thing we know about the presidential race that we didn't know 2 hours ago is that Democrats now agree with Republicans. The president's likely to win one of the two biggest of the 8 he needs to win, along with Texas, which is Florida. That's very significant.
I think one of the most important things is that the president spent a lot of time there on the ground, and he asked for the vote. The most important thing that one can do, ask for the vote, show your enthusiasm for the state. He talked about socialism and the concerns about the way that things are going in Venezuela. He's talked a lot about Cuba, and that speaks to many voters down there. So
well, also,
good night to the
let's
president
remember,
so
those 29 electoral votes, it takes multiple states, probably 4, to make up losing Florida. If he weren't to carry Florida, getting to 270 is almost impossible. But the other thing that's interesting is he has definitely done better with the Cuban vote. You're seeing that out of the early returns in Miami-Dade. But I also think he's going to do really well in the I-4 corridor with the Puerto Rican vote. The governor of Puerto Rico came out and endorsed this president. That is a big deal because if he does better in Miami-Dade and then up into the I-4 corridor, into the Orlando area, I think that's going to be a game, set, match for Florida.
Electoral votes are what matters the most, but there's psychology involved here, right? If the president can be declared the winner of Florida tonight, before midnight, he banks those electoral votes, he adds to his total of the base states. That gets him close enough just with Florida to say, I'm in this. And that's a huge psychological lift for him if there's a political fight, a legal fight, or PR fight going forward after.
If we can show again the Florida results of Biden and Trump again, and as that pops up, I want to ask you about this. Let's just play the advocate for a second here. What if we did go by these results that we just saw here with Biden in the lead? What does that mean? If that were to happen, Mark, what does that mean for the Trump campaign?
If Biden wins Florida?
If Biden wins Florida.
Sean said it'd be difficult for the president to win with Florida? No, impossible. Impossible. Look,
I went to a liberal arts college. My math is not.
I believe the president must win the 8 states we're going to be talking about all night. Every one of them. The good news for the president, that sounds scary if you're a Trump supporter. The good news is he can win all 8. He's in a position to win all 8, and it looks like he's closing in on one of the 2 biggest ones that he needs, and really the ultimate battleground state.
But not only that, but they're all trending his way. Yeah. That's the other thing. You want to be riding the wave at the right time, and coming into election day, coming to that key in-person vote, he is surging forward in every one of those states. And he's closed the early vote in lots of them. That's also important. He's got his people fired up. If they didn't show up today, he was done. But they're showing up, and they're showing up big. In Pennsylvania, we just had Congressman Dan Mueser on the show. He's talking about long lines there. That's a good sign for this president, especially in that part of Pennsylvania that he represents.
A lot of the media chose to ignore the fact that in every one of these states, the president did better over the last 2 weeks. He's closed the gap. Is he going to get all the way there? We don't know yet, but it looks like he's going to in Florida.
But the counter to that on the part of the media was, oh, but everybody did an early vote. Everyone voted early, so therefore it doesn't matter. Last-minute turnout does not matter for the president. It looks like we could be seeing the opposite narrative that, again, the media would be choosing to ignore.
There's one X factor in voting, right, is that we know how many Republicans requested a ballot. We know how many Democrats requested a ballot. We don't know how they voted.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, especially with the black and the Hispanic vote that traditionally have voted Democrat. This president has done a lot for them, and I think that may prove to bear out when it comes to seeing the votes.
Let me jump in really quick. We've got a presidential historian on the line here. He is the author of Inside Trump's White House, Doug Weed, joining us live. Craig Shirley as well, New York Times bestselling author of Mary Ball Washington, the untold story of George Washington's mother. Good to see both of you here. Doug, I'll start with you. Historic night. We're still watching this. Florida, though, the president down in the numbers now. We're still waiting on about 20 or 20-something% to still come in. So this is a state we're watching.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the analysis, by the way. When I wrote Inside Trump's White House, I focused a lot with the president on election night last time around. And Sean and others can chip in and remember at about 5:30, ABC leaked their exit polls they came to Jared Kushner, and Jared called Donald Trump and said, we're going to lose. He called Melania, said, honey, Jared just got the numbers. We're going to lose. That was at 5:30. Some of his staff came to him and said, what should we do? We've got all these people at the Hilton Hotel. You'll have to say something to, what are you going to do? And then there's Brad Parscale in the background and Steppe, and they're saying, no, you haven't lost. They're using the wrong models. And they say, sir, what are you going to do? And Donald Trump said, I'm going to go downstairs. If I lose this thing, I'm going to go out on Fifth Avenue. I'm going to call the press. I'm going to say, I'm a patriot. I love my country. I did my best. And tomorrow, I'm going to get on a plane and fly to Ireland and play a game of golf. So that was 5:30. Of course, it all changed.
Craig Shirley, I'll bring you in on this conversation. We saw Florida, 82% of the votes are already in here. Weigh in on that for me, because right now it is tight.
You know, what's interesting to me, Sean, is that I was just sitting here thinking about the demographic and psychographic changes that I've seen in my lifetime in presidential elections. I remember a time when New England used to be wholly Republican. New England was a rock-solid Republican. New Jersey used to be rock-solid Republican, and everything south of the Mason-Dixon line was rock-solid Democrat. The West was often Democratic, although not always. I remember a time when California was solidly Republican and had been for many, many years. Then it's just interesting to me that how the state of the nation has changed so dramatically in just a couple of generations, and that Florida is now it was rock solid Democrat for many years. and then it switched to Republican for many, many years, and now it teeters on that balance and goes back and forth. Bill Clinton carried it, and then George Bush carried it in 2000, of course, by only a few hanging chads, of course, but and then Trump
Craig,
carried it
I don't mean
4
to
years
cut you off,
ago.
but hopefully it won't be the same. I'm out of time with you. Doug Weed, Craig Shirley, thank you so much. I know you're going to be watching tonight. Thank you for weighing in. I'll take you now to Mark Halperin and Sean Spicer standing by the big board with a look at some key crucial states, guys.
So, Sean, we're going to be a broken record tonight. We're going to be talking about 8 states.
Yeah.
Right? We start with the significant 6. These are states the president won last time, and he needs to win again if he's going to win. There's no ambiguity. Florida, which we believe now he's going to win. Georgia, where Republicans and Democrats say the president is now favored. Ohio, where he's looking strong.
I think that one's definitely in the bag for him. They've pulled out. The Biden camp has largely pulled out of that. The Republicans feel good about that. Even the Democrats are admitting without a strong showing in Cuyahoga County, Cleveland, and those surrounding areas, they don't have a shot there.
So that's in theory, not saying we're projecting, but 3 of the 6. That leaves Texas, where most Democrats say was the longest shot of these 6, and Iowa, where the last Iowa poll showed him way ahead. If he can win those 5, that leaves 1 of the significant 6. That's North Carolina. It's the toughest. It has been. Sean, if he can win those 6, that brings us to the next complexity for the president. The last 2 states he'd need to win in what I believe is his only path to victory, which is he's got to win Pennsylvania and he's got to win Arizona. But we don't get to those. Pennsylvania is going to be slow to count. Arizona is a western state. These are the 6 to focus on. And right now, I think it's safe to say that in 5 of them, based on what we know about where the votes are today, 5 of them, the president has a pretty good shot. North Carolina's the weak link.
That North Carolina one, I think, is going to be crucial to the president tonight. Both sides admit that that's the closest, and they are going to count their votes late. So if it's really down to the wire, you're going to be counting votes for days, trying to figure out who the winner is, and that's going to be important because those 15 electoral votes, you have a hard time making up anywhere else. That's the thing. The other thing that's important, you point out Pennsylvania. That number 20, that's crucial. Look at that. He'd have to win Wisconsin and Minnesota just to make up that, and I don't think that's possible. So getting North Carolina in his column and then putting Pennsylvania away are crucial to that 270 number.
You and I are going to fight about this all week. He's got to win these 8. There's no other path.
Right, but I'm saying that if he can't, once he gets there, that Pennsylvania number becomes crucial to getting to the 270. You're right. He can't pull in with the other ones, but that's key to getting to 270.
Sean.
All right, yeah, one of the 6 there, Florida. That's the one we're going to watch out for. It's a big indicator tonight, and we've got eyes on it. We want to hear from you, though. What do you think about this? Who's going to win tonight? We want you to be a part of it. Be a part of our poll here. Text the word poll to 3.
The Flube Pa. I'm talking right now on my pad.
Irascible.
No, obviously not. It's ridiculous.
And definitely irreplaceable.
I consider these people sheep.
Catch him every weekday on the Howie Carr Show.
Welcome back to our special here on Newsmax. We've got you covered for the election 2020 and the best political minds in the business. Sean Spicer joining us. He's a co-host of Spicer & Company. Mark Halperin, political analyst. And we've got now Joseph Pinion, GOP strategist, joining us live here in the big program here, guys. This is a big one. We've been talking about this all night of what we're going to see, the big swing states. Mark Halperin, I know you broke this down about the big 6, significant 6, if you will. Joe, what are you watching for tonight?
Look, obviously, I think that President Trump has a good pathway to re-election here when it comes to Florida. I think right now the most realistic pathway beyond that, you're looking at places like Arizona and North Carolina. I think places where you see the early numbers in North Carolina favoring the GOP a little bit. Obviously, it's going to be tight, but I think if President Trump can hold on to those 2 states in particular and make sure that that red wall holds in the South and also in the Pacific Southwest, I think, again, he's going to have a pretty good night.
Let's throw a different topic in the mix, and I'll fire this one back at you as well. Is there a blue state you see swapping to red, flipping to red tonight?
I mean, look, I think I was one of those people who said the RNC spent a considerable amount of money in a place like Minnesota. I thought there was a good chance there. Obviously, in the later weeks, it looked like that might not be true, but it seems like there may be some panic in Biden world as it pertains to Minnesota. And I think, again, don't count out a place like Nevada, where, again, I think there is a great level of affinity with President Trump. And we still don't truly know, even heading into the late tonight, who a likely voter is when it comes to making sure who's actually showing up at these polls.
Joseph Pinion, you know, the time is of the essence. We're watching these polls close. Emma Reckenberg is standing by with some details on this. Hey, Emma.
Hey, Sean, as you said, these polls are starting to close and the president is hoping to pick up those electoral votes. We want to show you some of the reaction on social media Florida Senator Marco Rubio telling this to voters, saying, do not allow anyone to convince you not to vote because public polls indicate the race is over. The partisan makeup taking shape in the actual electorate looks nothing like the sample used by most public polls. Stay in line and vote. Also this, Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Schlapp, urging voters to do the same thing, saying, I'm getting calls from battleground states saying conservative turnout is crazy good. Stay in line. Vote non-socialist America. And finally, the president's daughter, Ivanka, weighing in as well, tweeting this, saying, stay in line. Do not leave. We need you. #red wave. Of course, with races tightening, we will keep monitoring social media for reaction and updating you throughout the night. But for now, Sean, I'll send it right back to you.
All right, Emma, thank you so much. You know, a lot to talk about here. Let's bring in Jack Kingston now. He's a former Georgia congressman. He's a Trump 2020 surrogate. Jack, always good to see you, sir. I know you're fired up about tonight. A lot of questions, though, about Georgia and what happens in that state. What are your thoughts?
I think we're going to be fine in Georgia. You know, one of the things that people don't talk about, they talk about the enthusiasm at the Trump rallies and the boat parades and the car parades. But one thing Sean Spicer would tell you is very significant because he masterminded it 4 years ago, is the fact that we've had 180 million voter contacts. Last week alone, 10 million voter contacts, which was more than we had in 2016 in total. 2.6 million volunteers. That's an invisible army, and it's so important. It's been working in Georgia, and that's the reason why I think the president will get about 52% when the night's over with. I think David Perdue will win without a runoff. And then we're going to have our runoff for the special election, if you will. But I believe that the president takes Florida, Georgia early, then all eyes will be on North Carolina, as you pointed out. We're going to have to wait till the votes are all sorted out. But if he can pick up North Carolina and Pennsylvania, I think we're on our way past 270 electoral votes.
I got about 30 seconds with you. Senate races in Georgia there. We just had Congressman Doug Collins on the show. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think you're going to see any surprises tonight?
I don't think we're going to see any surprises. We're looking at two of the congressional races that have been very tough. One could be a flip for the Democrats. They're very well organized, but I do think Rich McCormick will pull it off and hold on to the seat which Rob Woodall held. It's been a traditional Republican seat, but lots of changing demographics. I think the one thing we've seen in Georgia as much as anything is that George Soros has invested in Georgia in terms of voter recruitment and voter turnout, and we're fighting that right now, paying a little bit of catch up, but we're going to get there. And I do think that Trump and Perdue are going to have a very good night.
All right, Jack Kingston joining us live. Jack, enjoy the evening. Always great to see you, sir. You take care.
Thanks, Sean.
Anytime. A live look now in Ohio here at one of the polling locations out this way. Ohio, one of the big states here, swing state, something we're watching out for tonight as well. Tim Moore is joining us as we take this live look. He's a Republican Speaker of the House in North Carolina. Again, another state we're watching. Are you worried about North Carolina? What are you looking forward to right now in your great state?
Well, we feel really confident that the president is going to carry North Carolina. We also believe that we're going to see a lot of Republican wins all the way from the top to the bottom. We believe Senator Tillis is going to win. And we've seen a lot of enthusiasm, and I think it's been talked about quite a bit that, like these spontaneous boat parades and vehicle parades and you name it. And we saw that today. I actually was working a poll site in my own district, actually several in the western part of the state. And so we're hearing that high level of enthusiasm around North Carolina. So I really feel very comfortable that North Carolina is going to be solidly red.
And just stand by. I want to bring an update right now. This is going to happen throughout the night. I do have a call here for Kentucky. I'll show the viewers at home if we can. Kentucky right now, it does show Trump in the lead in the presidential election at this time. There it is on your screen, 18% right now. President Trump, 57%, 41% for Joe Biden. The next one I have, Virginia. So Virginia's next up for you. 53% for Trump, 45% for Joe Biden, 12% of the votes in. This will continue to progress all night. I will bring back in Tim Moore. Tim, back to you now. The big question there in North Carolina is being able to count these votes 9 days after the election. What are your thoughts on that? Are you worried about that? Are those votes separated? It's my understanding they're not.
So those votes will be coming in. In fact, there will be votes ballots that literally arrive into the the Board of Elections days from now, as long as they're in within about, I think, 6 or 7 days, I can't remember exactly, but postmarked on today's date, they will be counted. So that is going to delay North Carolina with that. My hope is that the president has such an overwhelming victory today between the early voting and today that there will not be enough votes to cause any issue there. One thing about our polls in the state have closed at 7:30, except in about 10 precincts around the state where there had been some machine problems of some kind. So as a result, those poll sites are now staying open until 8:15, and as a result, none of the North Carolina numbers will be reported until 8:15 this evening. So we'll have to see on that, but absolutely, we had litigation. Our Democratic Board of Elections, insisted on trying to move forward with this extending the voting period, and a federal judge ruled with them. But the law did not say that, but we're kind of stuck with that one right now.
Yeah, Joe Biden there, 52%, Donald Trump 44%. Again, not many votes in there. We appreciate your time, Tim Moore. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm bringing now Mark Rotterman, political analyst and veteran of the 1980 Reagan campaign, joining us live. Good to see you, sir. Very early to tell anything is happening tonight. What are you reading? What are you hearing on the ground? Any sources giving you any updated information?
Well, the president left everything on the field here. He's been here numerous times. Great turnout at these rallies. I would say that the Republicans had a great GOTV operation going. Biden had literally nothing going on here as far as knocking on doors or that sort of thing. I think he's just been kind of trying to run out the clock. The race I'm concerned about, I think Trump does win here without question. I'm really concerned about the Senate race. I think that's going to be very close between Cal Cunningham and Senator Tillis, the incumbent.
Yeah, as we're looking right now, the national electoral vote there, Trump at 13, Biden at 16. Again, these are very early, but you could see with President taking, if he would take Kentucky, West Virginia, Biden would take Virginia and Vermont. AP already called Vermont for Biden. We continue to follow this. Real quick, Mark, about 20 seconds left with you. What do you think? Any surprises tonight that you're watching for?
No, I don't think so. I think that we have a very good situation here, the way we run our polls, the way we run our voting categories and toll. We'll get the totals, I think, probably around 9:30, 10 o'clock.
All right, and that is Mark Rotterman. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for coming on.
Good to see you.
We appreciate the time. Best of luck to you. I'll bring back in our panelists now here. Sean Spicer, we'll start with you. We talked to several folks about what they're expecting tonight. I think the consensus is we wouldn't see any surprises. Do you think that we'd see surprises tonight?
Yeah. I mean, look, I think the way that we've been going the last couple of years, of course, I want to bring back in a comment. We started a little while ago with the Senate race in Kentucky. Yeah. Just to give you an idea, we're starting to see both Louisville and Lexington come in. McConnell's up with 31% of the vote, 60% to 30.6. This is where this happens. As Mark was pointing out, it's what comes in that matters, right? Because we can see a race change really quickly. The interesting thing for me right now, I looked at this in 2016. We mentioned what we looked at early, Broward County, Miami-Dade County, in Florida. We looked at North Carolina. We also looked at Northern Virginia, which came in early. And President Trump wasn't losing by as much as he was. That's how we knew we weren't going to win Virginia, but we knew the suburbs weren't as bad as we're going to be. The last thing that I want to make a point to Jack's point, this get out the vote effort that the Trump campaign, I believe it's worth a field goal. It's worth 3 points. If he can keep it close, knocking on those doors, making those voter contacts is crucial.
Joe Pinion.
I mean, quickly, I think to your point, we're looking at the potential here for, maybe some ballot splitting. I think there was this consensus here that people were just going to come out and vote blue, vote red. I think it does seem to be this notion here. Some of these states, you look at North Carolina, you look at possibly what's happening in Arizona, that there may be some Americans that are sitting here trying to maybe hedge their bets, people that really like President Trump. You're going to see that in Michigan potentially as well. And so I think that we need to maybe buckle up here and dig into these numbers because I think the Americans may not be as kind of polarized as people have been actually saying they have been.
Here's what the political pros in both parties I'm communicating with are asking. If the president wins Florida, he hasn't been projected to win there, but he's looking very strong. Are the lessons of Florida, is what explains a victory in Florida transferable to these other states? So one thing is the ground game. Sean mentioned it, the congressman mentioned it. There's no doubt COVID stopped the Democrats from going door to door. The Republicans continued. The other question is Joe Biden's failure to inspire Hispanics and African Americans in Florida Is that going to be repeated in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania. All right, we're out of time, guys. That's going to do it for our first hour of special election coverage. My good friend Rob Schmidt's going to be taking over for the next hour right here on NewsMax. Don't change the station. All right, and welcome back to NewsMax special coverage of Election Night 2020. I'm Rob Schmidt. We have polls closing at this hour in 22 different states, including the very critical states of North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, and most polls have now closed in Texas. I'm joined, of course, again by our own Sean Spicer, host of Spicer & Company, former State Department spokesperson Heather Nauert. Well, actually, we have Joe Pinion here instead. We're still trying to catch up on a couple of things. NewsMax political analyst Mark Halperin with us as well. This is going to be the big hour, I think. A lot of things are going to close right now. We're really got a close eye on North Carolina. I was just looking at some of these independent counties in Florida and seeing the places that the president is performing in, Mark, is really interesting to see.
Florida is going to be a big win practically and psychologically for the president. It's also going to be, as long as we're waiting for these other important states to tell us more about where they're headed, it's going to be a template for people to question, is the president's ability to do well in Florida transferable to these other states? Yes. We've discussed for 2 days running, North Carolina is the weak link. Of all the 8 states the president needs to win, North Carolina is in some ways thought to be the hardest. Let's see if he can do in North Carolina what he's done in Florida. I'll just say, some of the press is saying right now the president is the underdog in North Carolina based on the early returns.
Okay, and that's fine.
But remember, we have a 45-minute delay in North Carolina.
Right.
So it'll be really interesting how quick it comes in.
The last one closes at 8:15.
The last one closes at 8:15, but all the other ones have been waiting. So they've been sitting by, with the exception of 4 polling areas. The rest of the state has got their numbers ready to go, except for that absentee and the mail-in vote that may take a little while. They're allowing those ballots to come in. But if this thing, is close, you're going to be waiting to see for days what those mail ballots do.
But going back to Florida for a second, because I just want to give people an idea. Everybody talks about the suburbs, how important they are. You go to Miami-Dade County, and we just talked about this, but Clinton won that by 30 points in 2016. The president's down by like 8 points at this point. That's a huge overperform for the president. You go to Hillsborough County, right outside of Tampa. Clinton won that by 7 points. Biden's only winning that by about 7 or 8 from the last time I checked. Lake County, which is right outside Orlando, Trump won it by 23. It looks like he's winning by about 20-21 right now. I would say that's an overperform on the average in the state of Florida.
You don't want to make election night about media criticism, but I don't think the press took seriously when the president said, I have appealed to Hispanic voters, I have appealed to black voters. He wasn't taken seriously. Criminal justice reform, his policies on Cuba and Venezuela, it seems like they may have had an impact in these places. Now, again, they don't have Cuban-American populations like you do in Florida, but this is an area where the president underestimated the president's message.
Yeah. One state we're waiting on is Georgia. We want to talk about that. You've got the black vote's a huge deal in Georgia. You've got Atlanta. The Atlanta suburbs are a huge deal as well. What are you expecting to see?
I mean, look, Black Voices for Trump has lived in the state of Georgia. They've made a tremendous push there. I mean, the media has spent basically the last year and a half mocking their efforts, and yet I think at some basic point what they have failed to understand is that every percentage point you take away when it comes to the African-American vote, where we know black people are basically a captured constituency for Democrats, it perfectly means that that's almost a two for one swing that goes in the other direction. And so in these elections where we get very close here, and I think to your point, Mark, we're looking for that canary in the coal mine. What are these indicators that we're going to see, right, where you could see a potential where President Trump can carry Georgia, and then at the same time, maybe the Senate races end up going to runoffs as a result of...
And like we've been saying, we're talking about the suburbs. If he underperforms in particular suburbs, could he overperform in the cities with the black vote? Could the black vote shock everybody for Donald Trump and give him a big boost in some of these big cities?
I mean, to be clear, the Republican Party doesn't have to do that well with the African-American community
got,
to have a tremendous impact. You talk about a Republican Party that can get 12%, that can get 13%, is a Republican Party that can tell the Democratic Party to hang out in the political wilderness for a very long time.
And I think it could be, and Sean, you can talk to this, I think it could be better than that. It could be 20-25%. I mean, this has really opened up for them.
I mean, let's keep it in context. 8% going to 20% is still not good for the party, but it's a market improvement, and those little things on the edge can make a big difference. When you're winning a state by 1%, or in the case of Michigan, 10,000 votes, in Wisconsin, 40,000 votes, in Pennsylvania, 40,000, in Wisconsin, 24,000, suddenly going from 8% to 16, 20, 22 within the black community in those metropolitan areas is a game changer.
Right, exactly. You're talking about the African-American community only making up about 7% of the electorate nationwide. But when you look at places like Georgia, where we have a more sizable size of the electorate, places like South Carolina, all along that black belt from Mississippi, these are types of places where, again, it's fertile ground for the GOP to start actually putting a dent in that backstop for the Democratic Party.
Let's talk about issues for a second, if we could.
Well, let's just wait just 1 minute, because we want to talk about Pennsylvania. We want to go north here for a second. Some polls are closing, and the polls have just closed in Pennsylvania. We're going to go to Jeffrey Lord now, who's a columnist for the American Spectator and a Pennsylvania native as well. And Michael Reagan joins us as well. So we have two great guests on this state. Jeffrey, we're going to start with you. Oh, so critical is the state of Pennsylvania. What do you think is going to happen here?
Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that Donald Trump can carry it.
Yeah.
I've been to 3 Trump rallies here, and I have to tell you, Rob, going to these things is like going to a rock concert. I've never seen anything like this ever in my life. I mean, this is just truly amazing to see. And one of the things that he has been doing, which is very important, they have jumbotrons up at these things, and they play Joe Biden at the debate saying he doesn't want to ban fracking, and then they play all the clips of him saying over and over and over again that he will ban fracking, and Kamala Harris saying she will ban fracking.
Right.
Jobs are at stake here for people in Pennsylvania, particularly Western Pennsylvania. And note well, one rally that I was not at was in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is just north of Pittsburgh. There were 57,000 people there. If these people all show up, I mean, it so alarmed the Democratic Lieutenant Governor of Pennsylvania that he issued a warning to his fellow Democrats to pay attention to this, that this was not.
And as we look here, Jeffrey, we're looking at the screen. I want to tell people that this is just essentially where the city of Pittsburgh is the only precinct that's reporting right now. So, of course, you're going to see this massive swath for Joe Biden. But most of the state is completely at 0%. When you look at this, though, and I want to talk to Michael about this, we're looking at an array of different counties in Pennsylvania trying to extrapolate what's going to happen here. 3 that I picked were Beaver County, which is that Pittsburgh suburb, which is right outside the one that's reporting right now. Cumberland County is where Harrisburg is, and then Erie County, way up to the north. The president visited there. These are the places that he needs to win again and hold strong to take this state. Isn't that right?
If you're talking to me, absolutely right.
Yeah, Michael, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has to hold strong and win that state again, Pennsylvania. By the way, Jeff, just to let you know, my birth family is from Newcastle, Pennsylvania. So what can I tell you? But the President of the United States has to an extent tonight, really try to run the table again, as he did back in 2016. The problem he's facing are the women, because the women outnumber the men in most of these states that are going to be the ones who are going to decide the presidency of the United States for the next 4 years. And he hasn't done well with those suburban women. So if they come out and they break back to Trump instead of to Biden, then he will probably run the table and we'll have him for the next 4 years. If the women do not, then it could be a very long night for the President of the United States.
Jeffrey, respond to that and respond to the potential of changing the demographics of the race that the president could try to pull here. Like we said, we were just talking about how he might overperform in the cities with minorities.
Rob, I just, one thing, you named Cumberland County?
Yep.
Pennsylvania?
Yes.
That's
Cumberland.
where I'm sitting
That's
right this minute.
Say that again. Yeah, go ahead.
And the line, I voted, it took me an hour.
Yeah.
This is Republican County. The turnout has been huge right here. And I can only tell you from being on the ground, I think it's seriously pro-Trump.
Okay, absolutely. Michael and Jeffrey, thank you so much. Good to see you guys. Going to bring it back out here to the panel. Heather Nauert joins us again, by the way. Good to see you, Heather.
Hey, Rob. Good to see you.
What do you? Let's stay with Pennsylvania for a second, because the polls just closed. We're just getting the very beginnings of the reporting coming in. I don't think the president can win without this state. What do you think?
I would defer to Mark on that, doing all the counting of the numbers.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a math person. However, it's a very important state for him. I think his message has really resonated with voters there, especially in talking about fracking and oil and gas supplies and all of those issues that are so important. I recall 4 years ago being in Pennsylvania, covering that part of the campaign in that important state, and just how much his message really resonated with voters there.
And was it
granted, Joe Biden's from there, right? Originally from Scranton, so that's going to have some pull too. But I think the president is doing that thing I talked about earlier, and that is asking for the vote and showing the enthusiasm he has for the American people and for our future.
And that huge unforced error by Joe Biden when he talked about getting rid of fracking.
Right.
He did something he didn't even have to say in that debate.
Right.
I mean, is that the worst mistake he made in the last month? It might be.
I mean, take your pick.
Yeah.
He misspeaks.
Boy, that was a doozy.
We'll keep watching that one.
Mark, talk to that a little bit.
Well,
The fracking comment.
It's the kind of thing that it's hard to evaluate the impact. It's something the president's team focused on. The president went to the rallies in Pennsylvania with these giant video screens.
Sure.
An idea that Karl Rove, the president's close personal friend, raised as something he should do. The campaign adopted it, and it was effective in the rallies. It got almost no press coverage nationally. But in the states, that issue got a lot of attention. And it's not just a Pennsylvania issue. It's also an Ohio issue. And that's another state the president must win tonight to do well. Issues matter. The press doesn't cover them all that much, but you talk about, again, the African-American vote. You got one candidate who passed criminal justice reform and is for school choice, and another candidate whose most famous legislative accomplishment is passing a crime bill, very unpopular in the African-American community. It matters. It doesn't get a lot of press coverage in the dominant media, but it matters, and that may be the story. Right now, just to say, psychologically, which matters on this night, Democrats are worried. They're looking at what happened in Florida, and they're saying, oh no, is this about to happen again?
And Sean, real quick, what we saw in Florida 6 hours ago, you were very worried about Florida. Now the New York Times gives like a 90% chance going to Trump.
Well, yeah, I don't think the New York Times guided my thinking, but I think, look, they went into Election Day with a big head start in that early vote. The Trump campaign was convinced that those same-day election voters were going to come out for him. They did, and he overperformed where he did. The AP has now also called Oklahoma, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama states that closed at 8 o'clock. No shocker there, but again, it starts to put some points in the president's column.
Starts to look good. We're going to go right now to Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn, who joins us, and we just had Tennessee called. It stays red. Your initial reaction as the night goes on here?
I am pleased to see that. And, I have to tell you, I think the president is in pretty good shape as we begin to work across the map. Florida is important. We're going to be keeping our eyes on Georgia, the Carolinas, also looking at how the numbers continue to come in Pennsylvania, Ohio. And I will tell you this, being out in Arizona on Saturday with Martha McSally, there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for President Trump. And I saw almost no enthusiasm for Joe Biden. And I think that we're going to see him hang on to Arizona.
You think he's going to get? You think the president will get Arizona? What guides your thinking in that? That's a scary one for the Republicans right now.
I think that the president will get Arizona. I was very pleased with the enthusiasm there, and it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Will he carry? Do you think he can carry Martha McSally?
I think Martha has done a good job of tying that race up and inching up on it. One of the things that people talked about a good bit in Arizona was they did not like Biden's talk about going back into lockdowns. They want to get back to work. They want to get the economy open.
And immigration is a big issue there as well. Yeah. Senator, thank you so much for your time. Good to see you as always. Want to come back out here to the panel real quick because Florida has just been called for the president, Heather.
Wow.
Huge state.
Okay, that is huge. I was going to chat about Arizona a little bit, but this is what the president needed. And a mark of a great night for the president is to have a strong finish in Florida and taking on Florida.
Yeah, I mean, you can't overstate this. The state of Florida is a big one.
He had to have it to win. Again, now our eyes are turned, based on the clock and where polls are open and where there's delays, our eyes now turn to Georgia, where the president looks strong, and North Carolina, which I say again is going to be, I think, one of the big moments if he can win North Carolina. If he can't win North Carolina, he's not going to win.
Yeah.
And right now, most people say it's at best a toss-up for the president.
Yeah. Sean, you're connected to the campaign. How's North Carolina feel?
Tight. I mean, I think everybody admits that it's going to be a tight race. I think you'll know early whether or not they feel good on it. I mean, again, I think it's a similar situation to Florida, that they feel like it's tight. There's a little bit of nervousness. But among all of the states, Georgia, the other ones that Mark has part of his significant six, the one that I think everybody agrees is going to be the tight one to watch tonight is North Carolina. I will say, I mean, look, the president's lead in Florida, yes, he won it, but right now with 87% in, he's got just over 81,000 vote lead. This is not huge. He won by 1.2% last time. There's been an increase in turnout, so it's pretty good, but it's good news. It's great news for the president, but this isn't like a 4 or 5% increase in vote right now.
And let's remember, projections are sometimes wrong, right? We could say that he's projected to win Florida, and then somebody could find a basket full of ballots somewhere.
Yeah.
So nothing's going to be decided in this race, particularly if there start to be legal challenges on one side till everything's decided.
And just to mention before you go, Heather, the polls have just closed in North Carolina, so we're going to start getting some numbers here real quick. A couple have come in, but go ahead.
I just wanted to point out that North Carolina is one of the states that we've looked at for many years and said,
Yeah.
look at the changing demographics. Look how much that state has changed. So if the president has the ability to pull out a win despite changing demographics there, I think that will be very telling.
Yeah.
Our Latinos, our African Americans showing up and turning out to vote for this president, that would be huge.
What's happening in North Carolina happening in a lot of states where people from blue states are tired of the high taxes, high everything else. They're moving to North Carolina. A lot of people from the north
and I
come
think
down there.
I think there's another thing.
A lot of
I
people from this
know
area.
Mark doesn't want to rip on the media too much, and I worked for a big portion of my career in the news business as well. But I think the media doesn't want to cover that. The media does not want to focus on that, and that might be the big headline coming out of tonight. Perhaps the media got it all wrong.
Could be. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Mark, I wanted to, what are the areas of North Carolina? Are there certain districts? Are there certain counties that you're watching closely? Are there suburbs of certain cities?
Well, there's two big variables geographically. Leave demographics aside for a moment. One is, can the president find more votes in rural parts of the state? That's all the states he won over Hillary Clinton that were close last time: Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan. He turned out surprisingly large numbers of votes in these rural counties. Not necessarily a lot, but they accumulate, they make up a lot. And then the suburbs. Are the suburbs of North Carolina going to be like the suburbs of Philadelphia, like the suburbs of Dallas, where the president shows great weaknesses compared to 4 years ago?
Sure.
Or are those suburbs a little different? Are those suburbs maybe people who care about Justice Barrett? Are those suburbs people who are more tax sensitive than they are in some place, care less about the president's Twitter feed, care less about the president's style? On demographics, it's not as old a state as some of these other battleground states, but there are plenty of retirees there. The president's got to hold his own with older voters. And of course, you've got young people there. There's a lot of university towns. So it is as much as any other state in the country now, as Heather suggested, a microcosm of the country. Suburbs, exurbs, rural, urban, and then all this demographic change there.
Yep.
I believe tonight, if we know by midnight who's won North Carolina, we'll know if this race is over, or we'll know if we're going into the later in the week or beyond.
Well, you brought up an interesting issue, the Supreme Court. And I think we can't underestimate the impact that the Supreme Court, Amy Coney Barrett, has on, in particular, those southern states right now.
Absolutely. We're going to take a pause here and just go to Congressman Michael Burgess, who is joining us. Sir, thank you. The big question, does Texas stay red tonight? That's one that needs to stay red if the president's going to win.
All I can tell you at this point is the 26th district that I represent looks like it's going to stay red. And, you know, it's interesting because you talk about the suburban voter. I represent a district that is basically suburban. So the Dallas portion I carried with 53%, the Denton County portion 60%, and the Tarrant County portion 65%.
Yep.
So I think that all portends well for the president. We'll see. I mean, his folks came out on election day. Right. I really believe that to be the case. You know, we don't just have Trump signs down here. We've got actual shrines to the president, flags and boats and trucks. I mean, it really is a great deal of enthusiasm for the president.
Sir, we're looking at, with 38% of the votes in, and it all comes down to where these votes are coming from. But Joe Biden has a lead at 52% to 46%, with looks like about 4 million votes in at this point. Mark just showed me a tweet, though, that was talking about how the president seems to be doing better in the Dallas area than expected. Is that what it's going to take to carry the state?
Well, look, the president's going to do better with literally all groups, better than expected. And I don't know where the story has come from that Texas is in play, because honestly, it's not. And if you when you are on the ground here in the state, what I'm feeling is that there is a tremendous amount of support for the president. People were waiting for Election Day, so that vote will be tabulated later. It's going to come in for the president.
Absolutely. Looks like you've, or you will handily win your race there in Texas. Anything else we should expect tonight? What about the Cornyn race, the Senate race?
I've always felt that John Cornyn is going to prevail in this contest. Look, we've had so many commercials on television. I think the prayer of Thanksgiving you're going to hear tomorrow is that people's television watching is no longer bombarded with political commercials. It has been brutal down here.
Absolutely. Congressman Michael Burgess, great to see you. Thank you. We're going to go to the White House now and check in with our White House correspondent, Emerald Robinson, who's on the North Lawn this evening. Emerald, what are you seeing there?
Well, you know what, Rob? We're all here just playing the waiting game, kind of like you're doing there. It's a bit of a subdued election night here right now. Of course, originally the Trump campaign had planned to do something at the Trump Hotel. That got canceled last minute. The president spoke about that a little earlier today when he made a visit staffers at the RNC headquarters over in Arlington, Virginia, saying that due to coronavirus restrictions here in the district, they wouldn't be able to do it. But we are planning to see him in the East Room a little later tonight. He is planned to watch these results come in just like we're doing, but in the residence of the White House with his closest advisors. And I'll tell you how it feels here, Rob. There's sort of this collective feeling of holding your breath. I mean, there's lots of media here. We're all spread out. We're all waiting. Some of the staffers have been out. They largely, though, are not really here in plain view. But I did get to talk to a few staffers about how they're feeling. They came up and, of course, they want to hear what the media has to think about tonight as well. And you can tell they're nervous. There's some tension. There's some questioning of what the future is going to hold. So right now it's like, everyone's waiting to exhale. But like I said, we'll see the president a little bit later tonight in the East Room. He is supposed to deliver remarks, and I'll be in there. Expecting somewhere between 250 and 400 guests. Not quite sure exactly what that number is going to be just yet. But
Emerald, thank you so much
Rob.
from the North Lawn. Good to see you. Ready for a big night at the White House, perhaps. I want to come back out here. I want to announce just real quick, state of Missouri stays red, goes to the president. So that's another one in the president's column. I want to bring it back out here to the panel for just a second. And I love that everybody's just furiously typing on their phones and checking their computers because information is just so valuable tonight, and we're getting it as we speak. I want to look at this Texas map here because we just talked about how Joe Biden had this lead in Texas, about 6 points right now. But as we look at the map, the precincts that are reporting and reporting heavily are all City of Dallas, City of Austin, City of Houston. Sean, I want you to speak to this because these are the places that are reliably Democratic in this red state. The president, I would say that's a good sign for the president. Once all these other counties start reporting, he's going to have a much healthier position.
It should be. I mean, we'll expect San Antonio to come in heavily for Biden as well.
Yeah.
The question, Mark made this point earlier, can these other rural areas come in big? And I think that we're going to, there's a couple bellwether seats that we're going to see. Texas 32, just outside the Dallas area in Irvine. Does that flip back? That was a district that we lost, the Republicans lost last time, went to the Democrats. Does that come back? That to me is a bellwether because that'll show how much intensity is there in Texas right now.
When we look at, let me just give you one county. This is the county Houston is Harris County. 56% to Joe Biden, 42% to Donald Trump. Does that sound good for the president? Is that?
Well, again, the one thing, it sounds good, but the other thing you got to remember is it's turnout. It's how many people turned out there because in these major...
Because that's a major city. You'd think that it might be worse than that.
Right, but the question is how many people showed up? Because proportionally speaking, if that holds, but you don't get as big of a turnout in a more rural thing, then that doesn't matter, or it matters more.
And as we look, there's another, and hang on one second. We got Indiana called for the president, 60% to 38. This is very early on, but Indiana's reliably red and will stay that way, it would appear, tonight. So that's another one for the president. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Beto, in terms of Texas, Beto O'Rourke won those metro areas huge over Ted Cruz. He came up short. So the president doesn't have to dominate those metro areas. He has to hold his own. And as Sean said, how much of the contribution to the total vote comes to those metro areas? I'm going to bring up another theme we haven't talked about tonight, which is key in all of these states, which is mail-in votes, early vote versus same-day vote. In Florida, one reason the Democrats were so confident before this morning was they didn't think the president's party could turn out enough day of election votes to overcome the margin that the Democrats had built up. They did. Look at what Pennsylvania just announced in terms of their early vote. Democrats had, in terms of mail ballots, 1.6 million mail ballots. Republicans, 600,000. So that's a big gap. That's a big gap for the president's party to make up in voting today. And based on what we've heard about turnout today in Pennsylvania, that's going to be a tall lift. That's going to be a heavy lift for the president. He overcame the gap in Florida. We'll have to see if he can do it in Pennsylvania. We'll see the same thing in North Carolina, in Georgia, Ohio, et cetera.
Well, the thing that's going to be interesting in Pennsylvania, I'll tell you, they've had all of these issues with what they call naked ballots, because you double envelope that ballot, meaning that you take the ballot, you put it in an envelope, then you put that envelope in another envelope, then you've got to make sure that there's a signature and a postmark. Because so many people voted
for the match.
Because
signatures.
For the first time, there's high potential that people screwed up their ballots.
Yeah.
Those ballots are going to get challenged. And so, yes, they ran up the score there, but if the president can outweigh that with election day voters, that's going to help. But then you're really going to see full employment of every lawyer in Pennsylvania because they're going to figure out, go vote by vote and figure out whether or not they complied with those laws.
Yeah,
So far,
in
in states where we've got data on this, there haven't been as much poorly filled out ballots as some people had worried there would be. Most of the votes are counting. That's obviously good for the Democrats.
That's a good thing. Let's widen it out just for a second. Let's show people the national electoral vote at this point with it looks like about 13 million reporting. The president had, as soon as I bring it up, it disappears, but we'll try to pull it back up for you. But the president did have a lead in the Electoral College at this point. The only surprise on that map was Florida, of course. Heather, how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I think right now, at this very moment, just a snapshot in time because things can change as we look at other states and count other states' votes. But it's looking like a really good night for the president so far.
So far.
It's doing well in Florida. North Carolina is going to be a bit of a concern. We talked about some of the issues there, but we also talked about some of the positives for the president. His success in naming 3 Supreme Court justices. In more conservative states, that's huge, but North Carolina has had a changing demographic, so that could look a little bit different for the Republicans.
It also inspires people to vote against him if they're not happy about that. All right, panel, stand by just for 1 second. Coming up, we're going to have another poll closing here in just a few minutes. We've got precincts reporting in a lot of major states right now. It's changing by the minute, and it's all coming up. More after the break.
This is the 2021 Medicare benefits update.
If James wins the race, Republicans have to sweep the Senate races in Maine, North Carolina, and Iowa to get the majority in all likelihood. Depends on how few other things fall. But in all likelihood, they have to win all 3 of those.
Okay, and then let's go back to that electoral map because we just got a couple of updates. Joe Biden winning the state of New York, which is a big one, 29 electoral votes, surprises nobody. Also, Colorado called for Joe Biden. He's still got Illinois, Virginia. Massachusetts all called for Biden. So we got 120 to 115 now at this early point in the night. 23 million to 22 million, and I think there's going to, there could be, what do you guys think are going to vote in this election, 150 million people?
It looks like it's going to be north of that based on what we've seen so far.
And it does look like, Greg Gardner, it's 42% of the expected vote. And again, these are early projections, but Hickenlooper is ahead by about 18 points in that race so far.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk for a second about the blue wall, as they called it in 2016. The polls just closed in Minnesota and Wisconsin. We're going to bring in 2 of Minnesota's native sons, friends of ours, the CEO of My Pillow, Mike Lindell, and former NFL player Jack Brewer. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us. 2 states, Minnesota almost went to Trump in 2016. He couldn't quite pull it off. Wisconsin, he could. Jack, we'll start with you. What are you feeling about that part of the country tonight?
I think we're going to see some exciting things happening. I can't wait to hear from my buddy Mike, but when you talk about Wisconsin, those rural areas, you're going to see voter turnout like you've never seen before. We've knocked on so many doors throughout the Midwest. I think that's really going to be the difference in this election for us, particularly in this part of the country. Getting those voters out there that are normally conservative, that are Second Amendment, but typically don't get to the voting booth. And this year that's changing. If you notice, all of our rallies, we were averaging between 20 and 30% of everyone in attendance that were first-time voters for President Trump. That's a big deal considering how many rallies we were able to put together in the Midwest and in other places. I think the president's key surrogates did a great job, like Mike Lindell, like Eric Trump and Don Jr. Everyone was out there on the road really rallying the vote. I think you're going to see that tonight once the numbers start coming in the Midwest.
Yeah. Mike, we're talking about the state of Minnesota. It's your state. You think the president could actually carry it this time? He got close in 2016.
He's 100% going to carry it. And like Jack said, we've done so many rallies. I did a rally myself the other day. There were 3,000, 4,000 people there, and I was the keynote speaker. There's so much. We reached out to 5 million people, knocked on their doors, and by phone. I did ads for the president where we interviewed Democrats that were flipping and asked them why they were flipping. And you got to realize we had a big advantage in Minnesota because these terrible decisions came from our governor and mayor that manifest in these riots across the country. So you have that suburban woman. She wants safety and security. She's voting for Donald Trump that has our police backing. And we also have Ilhan Omar. So that was a big advantage for us because we all know she hates our country and hates Israel. So, and we have the northern Minnesota. He saved the Iron Range. All these Democratic mayors flipped, and you're going to see a big Minnesota win tonight, and the president's going to end up with over 320 electoral votes.
That's a big statement. Jack, back to you. The polls don't indicate anything like this. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but you've already seen, you saw in the state of Florida, everyone keeps talking about Donald Trump being a racist. Donald Trump almost got half of the vote in Dade County. Can you believe that? I mean, this is a minority county in the United States of America, and Donald Trump has done an unprecedented thing when it comes to Republicans. He'll continue that. That's also going to help him out. You know, people talk about the black vote and the Hispanic vote, but that vote also helps with suburban women. That vote also helps with our suburbs. People want to see unity in America. So when Donald Trump lets black men out of prison that were locked up for nonviolent crimes, white people like that too. When Donald Trump talks about school choice and letting African-American kids actually go to public schools that work for them, white people like that too. And so I think that's what you're going to see tonight. You're going to see those fair-minded folks who see the policies of this president and how they made such an impact on our underserved populations.
It's so interesting what you just brought up. Jack and Mike, great to see you guys back out here to the panel. Thank you. What Jack just brought up. Miami-Dade County, which went 30 points to Hillary Clinton in 2016. It turns around the president is off by, I think, a single-digit margin this time. Sean, talk to that for a second.
Well, look, I'll tell you, it's funny. I mentioned this earlier, what we were looking at in 2016. At 7:01, the AP called the state of Virginia for Donald Trump. For Joe Biden, without seeing a thing. Right now, with 2,241 precincts of 2,585 total precincts, Trump is actually up there. Daniel Gade, the Senate candidate, is leading Mark Warner. There's a lot out in Northern Virginia, no question about it. I mean, there's a big chunk of Fairfax County, which is a stronghold for the Democrats, that's still out. But this is amazing that these guys jumped the gun that quick without seeing a shred of data come in, just initially put it in the column. Gade is holding his own, doing a lot better. Remember, Ed Gillespie almost beat Mark Warner last time. Gade is running a strong campaign in Virginia. I think this could be a really interesting night in Virginia. You're seeing in Virginia's 2nd district, former Congressman Scott Taylor make a strong run back there. So this is now we're seeing these House races that we really didn't think were going to be that big of a story because they've been told this blue wave was going to push out Republicans. They were going to end up with less seats on election night. They actually may not even just hold their own. There's a possibility they could be picking up seats in the House of Representatives. The other thing is, I mentioned those betting sites. They now have it dead even on the race. So the people who are putting their money on the line have gone from calling it big time for Joe Biden to a dead even race. Again, that's not, but put it this way, if you're going to put your money down on something, that's where you're really going to.
I mean, you had to put like 250 on Biden just to win 100, I think, just yesterday or something like that.
Well, now you can win 250.
Mark, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just pouring over the Florida stuff. I know we're pretty sure the president's going to win it, but there's just so many lessons there about what the president did there and what it might mean for other states. We've talked about some of them. I just want to talk about a few that we've not emphasized. One is he can overcome that vote by mail disadvantage, that early vote disadvantage, which that was the big confidence the Democrats had. They said, we've banked so many votes, we can't possibly see the president and his supporters surge on Election Day. And the other thing, we've talked about some of these counties, but the president is doing better in many key counties against Joe Biden than he did against Hillary Clinton, either winning by a bigger margin or losing by a smaller margin.
Absolutely. All right, we got to take a break so we can collect our thoughts here. More polls closing. Numbers are pouring in as we speak. We're going to take a very close look at the great state of Texas. We're going to look at it by county, really get into the weeds. It's all coming up.
When important people
President Trump has taken with respect to China
need to speak,
and we passed the toughest sanctions on North Korea.
they speak.
So I can only tell you what I know and what my recommendations.
To NewsMax, we're real news for real people.
This is the 2021 Medicare Benefits Update, brought to you by EasyMedicare.com.
Hi, I'm Joe Theismann. EasyMedicare.com and I want to let you know Medicare's annual enrollment period is here, and that means it's time to enroll or make changes to your Medicare coverage. Do what I did. Call the EasyMedicare.com hotline to see if you qualify for more benefits.
Like $0 copays, $0 deductibles, and $0 premiums, which means nothing out of pocket for you.
Find out now if you're eligible for dental, vision, hearing, in-home meal deliveries, telehealth services, and prescription drug coverage. Plans also include private home nursing, wheelchairs, or transportation to hospitals or doctor visits.
Don't fail to act during Medicare's annual enrollment period. Today is one of the last days to change your Medicare benefits, so don't wait.
Call EasyMedicare.com now and don't miss out on even one Medicare benefit.
Call 800-593-5428, 800-593-5428.
This is important. Perhaps you received a settlement from a personal injury claim, maybe from medical malpractice or a car accident, or you may have won the lottery, and it seemed like more money than you ever imagined possible. Or not. If the settlement comes to you in regular payments rather than one lump sum, it may not meet your current needs. If you have a structured settlement and need a lump sum of cash for a car, to pay off debt, or to start a new business, Peachtree can help you get the cash you need sooner. For more than a decade, Peachtree has helped thousands of individuals turn their structured settlement into cash to meet a wide range of personal needs. Many received a large sum of cash and still continue to receive regular payments going forward. It's your money and your choice to use it when you want to. Peachtree is here to help. To learn more, call today at 800-514-7308. That's 800-514-7308. Or visit peachtreefinancial.com. Representatives are available now.
America's under attack, and they're all around us. I'm talking about liberal Democrats, and they're out to destroy everything that we've worked so hard for. Mammoth Nation's here to fight for you. You only get one vote, so let's join forces. We support conservative lawmakers and the causes you hold so dearly. We stand behind our police, veterans, the Second Amendment, and much more. We need your help, so join today.
Time for new reading glasses? Go to readers.com. Choose from hundreds of styles and colors for under $20. And now, enter this exclusive TV coupon code at checkout to save up to 40%. That's readers.com.
Selling a home is expensive and stressful, so we set out to create a better home selling experience with a network of the most successful real estate agents in America that'll sell your home for as little as a 2% commission.
The icing on the cake with the Ideal Agent was that we saved $12,000 in commissions.
We would definitely use Ideal Agent again. The whole process was so positive for us.
Excellent service.
Getting right to the point, hiring Ideal Agent, I wish we would have done that sooner, and we would have saved 6 months of time and mortgage payments that would have probably never happened if we would have just gone with them first.
They were so stress-free. The whole process was amazing, and I would definitely recommend them.
We certainly recommend Ideal Agent now to all of our family, all of our friends. It's just a great experience.
We are not a discount brokerage. These are top local agents that'll get you the best results.
Which, if you look at the returns right now, Joe Biden has a lead, but it's interesting why. Because the big cities and the big counties where the big population areas are the ones that are really reporting early on in the state of Texas. We want to take this over. I want to show you the big board here, and I'm going to let the gentleman at the board talk about it. But Travis County is where Austin, Texas is. You've got Harris County, which is where Houston is, and Dallas County, all reporting big numbers. These are blue counties. And then the rest of the state, as you can see, guys, a lot of it hasn't been reported yet. Talk about that.
So we saw this in the Beto O'Rourke, Ted Cruz Senate race, where a lot of money came in, and you saw Beto O'Rourke do extremely well in those big cities, in the metro areas, Houston, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio.
Yeah.
Doesn't hold for every state, but in most states, the big areas report first. Right. They just have the systems that allow them to dump all the vote in almost at one time. And so we're hearing from folks saying, is the president in any danger of losing Texas? The answer is almost certainly not, because the vote is in, as you can see, in those big metro areas. All that gray is where the vote is out. Those are rural areas, smaller population, but the president's going to do overwhelmingly well there. Those numbers will add up. Right now, the president's just a little bit behind. Most everyone we're talking to says when the final vote's in, the rural areas come in, the president will win Texas as he did 4 years ago.
There's nowhere where Biden is overperforming where someone like Beto O'Rourke did. That's the key, is that he's not, I mean, Mark's right, the cities come in first. There's nowhere where you're seeing something overperform that's causing a concern either in Harris County, Travis County, Dallas County. Everything is kind of tracking where it should be.
And I'm showing you Dallas right here. I mean, this is what happens in Texas. Dallas, these are the big cities. This is where all the, West Coast people move to. They go to Dallas and they bring all the blue with them. 65% to Joe Biden. That's a huge county, and it's 85% in. Or I'm sorry, that's 99% in Dallas County. They do get it fast. Harris County, that's Houston. Another one, 50, a little tighter in Houston. And then you go over here to, let me find it, Travis County right there. 73%, that's Austin, Texas. That's a liberal place. That's 95% in, and a lot of people live in these places.
So we talked earlier about the second guessing of the president going to Michigan twice in the last couple days rather than, say, going back to North Carolina. This is a state where Democrats were urged to go in. Beto O'Rourke personally lobbied Joe Biden, said campaign here. Senator Harris campaigned there for a day, but Democrats have not invested very much in there, and you can see why. If they had put more money in here, I don't think it would have made a difference because they cannot overcome the gravitational pull in all those rural areas, still very much a red state.
You got two other things happening here. John Cornyn's got a Senate race. He's a very well-liked senator, so it's hard to see a ticket splitter in Texas overall. Number two, you've got an issue where a lot of these areas, as Mark said, haven't come in yet. And I think when they come in, the president will be fine. What the media and a lot of the folks did was scare people in these areas. They told them Texas could go blue. And what that said to a lot of these folks is get out and vote. The media and the left didn't do anything. If they ran a sneak attack game, they might have had a chance. But what happened is they really scared the folks in rural Texas to say, you better get out there and do this. That fracking comment that that Joe Biden made, that also has an effect down in Texas. And that's the thing, is that they ended up probably being their worst enemy with trying to play up Texas.
I just heard also, to go to another significant state, I just heard from my best source in Ohio, Republican politics, who says the president, he's quite confident will win Ohio. That would get him if he wins Texas, Ohio, Iowa, Florida, 2/3 of the significant six, 4 of the 6 right there. That's a big deal.
Yeah, Mark's got the significant 6. I got the important 1. That's right. That's Pennsylvania. So we got to get, once he clears his 6.
Then we move on to your 1. And then my 1, Arizona.
Guys, come on back here. You can join us back at the desk. We don't want you standing too long. Jim McLaughlin here with us, a fantastic pollster. I've been dying to talk to you for about 30 minutes. I'm glad you're back on the desk. A lot of it has changed since the last time you were sitting out here about an hour ago.
No
what
question.
Do you think?
What happened to the Biden landslide? By the way, this is exactly what we were saying all along. We knew on the Trump campaign this race was going to be close. It wasn't like, I don't know what it is. I don't know which is worse, the media polls or these college polls that are totally off the map. And just what Sean and Mark were just saying, I was talking to my contacts down in Texas. They feel really good about where we are right now. And you know what? I always tell everybody, follow the money, follow the candidates. There wasn't a lot of candidate activity or a lot of money in Texas. Donald Trump's going to win Texas.
He's going to win Texas.
Can I tell you this? Look,
go ahead.
Look, this is the thing. Everyone made fun of Hillary Clinton because she didn't go to Wisconsin. She paid. The opposite may be true here. These guys spent time in Texas and Georgia. If they don't pull it out in either way, this is going to...
They barely spent time in Texas.
Okay, but they talked it up a lot, and I think that diverted a lot of attention, which was a mistake, because what happens is I think that their own base thought, hey, we got a chance here. It makes them look bad going forward.
So the message of this is basically, if you're looking at those numbers you see in Texas, just keep in mind that the bluest of Texas is already in, and the reddest is still pouring in as we speak, and these numbers are going to change. Any projection?
What are we hearing about? What are you hearing about North Carolina and Georgia?
What I'm hearing about Georgia, the Trump campaign feels very, very confident. North Carolina, cautiously optimistic in both those states. And I was talking to Tom Fetzer earlier tonight, who's the former mayor of Raleigh. He feels that, you know, again, what we're seeing is a lot of this early vote that's coming in, just like what we saw in Florida. People are saying, oh my gosh, Joe Biden's up by a couple points. It looks like, you know, Donald Trump is going to win Florida by over 300,000 votes. By Florida standards, that's a landslide.
In talking to your colleagues in the Trump campaign, are there any irregularities in either Georgia or North Carolina that if there's a tie or a projection for Joe Biden where they feel they could make an appeal through the courts?
I haven't heard anything yet, but I know, to their credit, and Sean knows this, the folks at the RNC, they've got a lot of lawyers on the ground because they knew this race was going to be close. I've been hearing from some of my lawyer friends. I usually don't talk to the lawyers, and they've been asking me stuff all night because they're already on the ground in most of these states. Yeah. And look, I think both parties have lawyers on the ground.
And have you heard anything about Pennsylvania yet?
Pennsylvania, everybody's saying the turnout was right for where we need it to be. Pennsylvania is going to be close. Remember, it was 10,000 votes last time. And look, I think, forget what the Trump campaign did in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Where was Joe Biden today? He was in Philadelphia. Yeah. Because
I went to Scranton today.
I'm sorry?
Went to Scranton today.
Yep, went to Scranton, and he also went to Philly. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why he went to Philly was because he's not getting the numbers in Philadelphia that he needs to get.
Well, that's where that black vote's going to be important. If he couldn't bring it home.
How they turn out.
If that's going to be big. If he doesn't have the same enthusiasm that Obama had, that's going to be a problem.
Okay, we got hey, one second, because we got to go to Emma, or else the producers are going to kill me. Emma Reckenberg is looking at what's on social media. Emma, go ahead.
All right, sounds good, Rob. Let's talk about the state of Florida here. A major victory for President Trump, and social media is ecstatic. Florida Governor Rick Scott, the senator, former governor, is tweeting this out saying, breaking news, Donald Trump has won the state of Florida. We worked hard to deliver the state for President Trump, and our votes showed up. All right, let's show you this one here. Eric Trump, keeping it pretty simple, just saying yes, yes, yes. He was also sure to encourage voters in the state of Nevada, saying this: Nevada, get out and vote. We can take this. Of course, encouraging those voters to stay in line. Now, of course, the race to the White House is tightening up. We're going to keep you updated as the night progresses, all on social media. A lot to get to. Rob, I'll send it back to you.
Absolutely.
Look, I'm going to continue to get good numbers out of Virginia, by the way. This is, we are now thinking, there's a couple seats that are flipping back Republican. This is going to be this has the potential to really be a good night, not just for the president, but I think down ballot as well. You're seeing this, you know, it's really interesting. These places that the media said were going to be a big problem. Sure. A lot of the folks that we've had on our show at Spicer & Company that have been on NewsMax have been talking about looking at things that have been overlooked by the mainstream media, and they were right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we do have to take a break as we go over all this stuff. I do want to take a deep...
If you've had it with the old news...
And the same spent...
Well, then Spicer & Company is your place.
For the inside story.
And for the facts that you need to know.
This is the 2021 Medicare Benefits Update, brought to you by EasyMedicare.com.
Hi, I'm Joe Theismann. EasyMedicare.com and I want to let you know Medicare's annual enrollment period is here. And that means it's time to enroll or make changes to your Medicare coverage. Do what I did. Call the EasyMedicare.com hotline to see if you qualify for more benefits.
Like $0 copays, $0 deductibles, and $0 premiums, which means nothing out of pocket for you. Call the EasyMedicare.com hotline right now.
Find out now if you're eligible for dental, vision, hearing, in-home meal deliveries, telehealth services, and prescription drug coverage. Plans also include private home nursing, wheelchairs, or transportation to hospitals or doctor visits.
Don't fail to act during Medicare's annual enrollment period. Today is one of the last days to change your Medicare benefits, so don't wait. Call the EasyMedicare.com hotline right now. You also receive inpatient care, including rehabilitation facilities or long-term care hospitals. You could also receive preventative services like screenings for diabetes, depression, or cancer, plus counseling and chiropractic services.
Call EasyMedicare.com now. And don't miss out on even one Medicare benefit.
Call the EasyMedicare.com hotline right now. Call 800-618-5620, 800-618-5620, 800-618-5620.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Do you feel over your head in monthly payments? I'm Bob with DebtBlue here to tell you about a special program that credit card companies have tried to keep hidden. If you have more than $10,000 in credit card debt, we could settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. That's bad news for credit card companies, but it's great news for you. At DebtBlue, we can help you virtually eliminate your credit card debt faster than you might imagine possible, and with a monthly payment you can afford. We even help eliminate the risk by guaranteeing your success. Call 1-800-436-4390 to see how much you could save. Before you chase your debt through consolidation or declare bankruptcy, talk to us first. Find out the secret credit card companies don't want you to know. Call DebtBlue now at 1-800-436-4390 to learn how much money you could save as we help put you back on the road to financial freedom.
Experian Boost has helped millions of people. How can it help you?
Whoa! 46 points!
I just boosted 15 points with Experian Boost. This is incredible.
Boost your credit scores instantly, free, only at Experian.com/boost.
All right, welcome back. Another red state sticks with the president. South Carolina has just been called for President Trump. 42% in. That's all it took to make that projection. 55% to the president. At this point, 44 to Joe Biden. Also, we've got a very close race in North Carolina as well. As we take a look, 50 to 49. If that's showing 96% in. I'm not entirely certain that's accurate, but let's just take a look at that number. It's going to be close in North Carolina no matter what. That's the point. That's the moral of the story. One of the biggest stories, though, to come out of this election, as we turn back to a little news here, is the Hunter Biden scandal. Voters rocked by the news, or had everyone already made up their mind by that point? Is another question. Did you get to hear the story before you voted, or did the media successfully push this story away and impact the election? Talking about the impact of the allegations here is former Assistant to President Trump Bill McGinley and former Lieutenant Governor of New York Betsy McCoy. Good to see you guys. Betsy, I want to start with you. The fact that this story got more and more legitimate by the day and was hidden from the media. It's unbelievable to see what they did trying to protect Joe Biden.
Not hidden from the media, hidden from the public by the media and by the social media platforms. So it's very unfortunate because when you look at the exit polls, you'll see that Joe Biden's big advantage is being regarded as trustworthy when in fact his actual record is that he used his office as vice president, turned it into an ATM machine for his family. But it's too late in the election to talk about that. I frankly think the biggest story tonight, and it will have lasting impact, is that Donald Trump has transformed the Republican Party into the party of working people, including Latinos, and they are really breaking for him. And this is a huge and lasting accomplishment.
It is something else. Bill, I want to get your thoughts on the Hunter Biden scandal. It was a critical couple weeks where the media basically resisted even touching or talking about it. And this is the same media that would take anything they could get on Donald Trump and blow it up through the roof to get it in front of everybody. What did you make of that?
Basically what it's done is it's exposed the national double standard that the media applies between Republicans and Democrats. Republicans would get an FEC complaint or they would get some sort of investigation just because the FEC would ask a question about their campaign finance reports. But in order for the Democrats to get one, you actually had to find 90 grand in cold hard cash in their freezer. This seems to have broken that wide open so that everybody understands the double standard now. You have documents. You have testimony, firsthand testimony about some of the things that have happened in connection with this scandal that deserve an investigation. Look, this is something that goes to foreign powers, money making its way into the system. And this is something that deserves a robust investigation to get to the bottom of it. The media completely fell down on this.
Sure. Betsy, I just want to ask you, I mean, we're in the middle of this night, and this election looks so close. And basically, the Democratic National Committee has essentially colluded with the media and with big tech to push Joe Biden over the edge here. And here we are still talking about this razor-thin margin between these candidates and this very tight race. How incredible would it be if the president actually pulls it off?
If the president is reelected, and I expect that he will be, and we hold on to the Senate, it's time to hold the social media platforms speak to the fire, not just in terms of their liability protection. We've got to treat these social media platforms like public utilities, because that is what they are. And they owe to all Americans that we be treated the same, that our information be respected, that anybody can post absolutely anything, no censorship at all.
Betsy and Bill, thank you so much. Good to see you. Back out here with the panel now. We're going to talk a little bit about the state of Michigan, which, if you had asked any pollster 24 hours ago, was an impossibility. And we're looking at some of the numbers beginning to come in, and we're seeing some interesting numbers coming in here. I know you guys have been looking at it as we were in the break. Sean, what are you seeing here?
Well, look, the president's up right now. We got about 20-something% in.
Right.
But again, this goes back to kind of the conversation we're having about Texas. It matters what's in, and so we got to get a little bit north of 50-60% before we start having a significant conversation. That being said, I'd rather be ahead than behind.
Here's one right here. Oakland County, Michigan. Oakland County is a suburb of Detroit. It is a place that Hillary won by 8 points back in 2016. In Oakland County, the president currently holds a 12% lead with 40% of precincts reporting.
I'll give you a number from an exit poll that the New York Times is quoting, an election poll, not just exit. Okay, so 40% of the people who voted in Michigan said that they're better off financially than they were 4 years ago. Okay, of those 40%, 81% voted for the president.
That Gallup poll recently just showed that too. You had 60% of the people saying they're better off. Generally speaking, at the end of the day, people vote their pocketbook. One of the things that people forget about the economy is everyone talks about the economy is a personal thing. It's not a number. So you can tell someone a statistic, but do they feel better? Do they feel that their job is safe? Do they feel like they're bringing home more money? Do they feel like their family is better off? And I think you're seeing this over and over again in these exit polls where people saying I'm better off. If you're better off, you're not switching horses.
We're going to send you guys to the board here real quick. While I send you there, I'm going to give you one more county. I know. Well, you didn't get a chance to hit the gym today. We're going to help you out. You guys go ahead. I'm going to bring up Kent County while you guys take a walk. Kent County, Michigan, is where Grand Rapids is. I used to go there on ski trips with the family. This is a county that in 2016, the president won by 3 points. Kent County. In this, so far tonight, 43% reporting the president is up by 16 points. That's overperforming. That's a big county. Grand Rapids is a decent-sized city.
How many total votes did he get in Michigan 4 years ago?
No clue.
No clue.
No clue.
I'm going to look that up while Sean talks about Michigan.
But again, you're looking at these areas right now. You still have a lot of where the president will need to do well still out. This Detroit area where he's not going to generally do well, if he holds his own there, and that's where John James, we're talking about John James, the Senate candidate, overperforming against Gary Peters, the first-term incumbent. This is helpful to Donald Trump because even if he picks off one or two more, I can't answer Mark's question fully, but I will tell you that the president won the state by 10,704 votes.
Right.
So you're playing on a razor's edge in this state. Those small differences can make a difference.
And could John James, this very popular senator that could take this thing for the Senate, could he carry the president in Michigan?
Well, that's the point, is that when you're playing on a margin of 10,704 votes, if John James internally, we were talking about him being up 5 to 7 points today. I mean, look, if he can carry the president by a handful of votes in some key areas and do well in Detroit, especially among black voters, that's enough.
Yeah.
So one thing that was true, the president's campaign said it from the beginning, he needed to get more votes in any state he won last time in order to win. Turnout was going to be higher. There wasn't going to be a strong Green candidate or Libertarian candidate.
Yeah.
So right now the president's got 788,000 votes, a quarter of the vote in. I'm no math genius. But 4 years ago he got 2.2 million votes. 4 times that is more than 2.2 million.
And as we look
so
at
he's
Wayne,
on track for more, which is what he needs.
Well, this is what we saw in Florida, Mark.
And as we can see from the map, the Upper Peninsula is Trump country. The western part of the state is Trump country. The northern part of the glove is Trump country. So
and to be fair, you've got Wayne County, which is where Detroit is. That's the big city, and that is only 3% in at this time. So I mean, it's going to change. Obviously, usually the big cities report earlier.
Right. Here's a dirty little secret about people who make fun of Hillary Clinton. She's a better candidate in many ways than Joe Biden. In a lot of states.
Well,
she's
not just
a better
that, but she had a better
candidate.
organization.
Better organization, but a better Michigan candidate because she had more connection to the city of Detroit than Joe Biden does, and she had a better connection to labor in some ways than Joe Biden did. She had her husband.
That's interesting.
This is a state where the president can do better because who he's running against.
Look, you talk about trade. The president passed that new NAFTA, the USMCA. Joe Biden voted for NAFTA. The president brought that up. That's a big deal around the Detroit area. If he can hold that vote, talk about trade. John James helps him a little bit there. All of those things are important to him.
It's a great point because it's another issue. Again, press doesn't typically cover issues. Donald Trump's position on trade for people in labor in Michigan, crystal clear.
That's right.
They definitely don't cover Donald Trump issues.
What's Joe Biden's position on trade? He was in an administration that was pro-free trade. How much did the press ask him to talk about trade in this election? Almost none. How much did Bernie Sanders ask him to talk about trade? This much. And how much did he talk about it? This much.
That's right.
And they know it.
And that's right. But these are the folks that come to Trump rallies. These are the folks that we're talking about that want to say no to the establishment. These are those people that they've been made fun of, that the Barack Obama campaign said that they cling to their guns and their religion. These are the people in pickup trucks around Detroit that go to work every day, that care about their jobs. And here's where the coronavirus comes into play. Donald Trump's been very clear about opening the economy. These are people who want to open the economy. They want to go to work.
And these are folks who also get that Joe Biden comes in and he hikes taxes.
That's
and
right.
What happens when you hike taxes amid economic insecurity or uncertain times? That creates job loss. And a lot of people are concerned about that.
And just to show everybody, this is the Kent County I was talking about. That's Grand Rapids. That's about half in at this point. The president with a 15-point lead in a county he only won by 3 in 2016. And then you go down. Well, I can't find Oakland County on here.
I'll say two things about Michigan.
There it is.
If the president wins Michigan, he will be reelected.
Oh, yeah.
And if the president wins Michigan, his aides 4 years ago were mildly surprised he won Michigan. If he wins Michigan at this time, along with every Biden supporter, they will be stunned if he wins it. Stunned.
It is stunning. Okay, they're yelling at me to let you come on back, guys. Let me move my phone.
Come on back into the
Back
fold.
over here.
Gentlemen,
We've been good.
you have been good. You've earned your way back.
Getting tired of that walk, though.
You know, I think one untold story, maybe, that people will be talking about tomorrow is the fact Americans do not like to be told what to do, how to think by mainstream media, by Democrats, by elitists. We don't like to be told that we're racist because we certainly aren't as a country. While there might be some elements out there, some rare people who are, Joe Biden and his campaign have repeatedly told us that as Americans, we suffer from systematic racism.
And our cops are all racist.
Exactly. And I think that Americans are looking at this saying, whoa, not so fast.
If we can divert from the Great Lakes down to the south in what is right now the most important state on the map, North Carolina, the president's communication director has tweeted the following thing. Don't know it's true, but it could be true. And if it is, it's vital. He says, all of the remaining North Carolina counties, in other words, where the vote is still out, are ones we won, Trump won in 2016, will be fine in North Carolina, likely winning by 50 to 70,000 votes.
So listen, I mean, look at this right now. You have 1,977 counties of 2662 in. Right now, it's a dead precincts, right? It is a dead heat. But to what we've been talking about before, Joe Biden was up 3 or 4 points a few minutes ago. As more precincts came in, it was down to 1 point. It is now 49.47 to 49.14. The Biden lead keeps evaporating. If Jason Miller is right about this and the counties that are remaining favor Trump, this puts Trump in a good place. Tillis, by the way, is up right now over Cal Cunningham in that crucial Senate race by just a little bit. It's funny. Tillis is actually not getting as many votes as the president, right? He's losing some, but percentage-wise, he's actually ahead of Cal Cunningham by a smidge.
What's interesting is how the president is doing this. As North Carolina looks good, I've been comparing these numbers from 2016 to now. You've got this Cabarrus County. I hope I'm saying that right. It's a suburb of Charlotte. The president won this handily in 2016. Cabarrus went plus 19 to the president. Right now, he's only about plus 8. That's an underperform for the president in a suburb.
How badly does the New York Times want the president to lose, would you say?
Worse than anything in the world.
Their needle, which I made fun of for 4 years, but nothing. Their needle says the president now has a 95% chance of winning North Carolina. And when I called your attention to the needle, it said 94. So in that blink of an eye, it went from 94 to 95% chance. So,
however, we still have to think about those early votes that came in. And they have until the 12th of November to count all of those. Now, would that potentially be enough? But they do have some time to count those.
Well, the Times takes that into account.
Oh, they do?
They know the full universe. Look, we're getting towards, we don't know about Ohio and Iowa or Texas for sure. We still don't know about Georgia for sure. But we're getting towards the point where the president might win all significant 6. and we're talking about a two-state election, Pennsylvania and Arizona.
Well, just
we're
to
getting
answer your
towards that
question,
point.
Heather, the Democrats led early vote in North Carolina 1,701,336 to 1,443,882 to the Republicans. That's a 300,000 vote lead for the Democrats. But the Trump campaign felt very confident that they had that many election day voters going into today. The key thing with that is when you're a Democrat in the early vote, you knew how many you had in the bank. The Trump campaign knew if they could get that turnout operation working, that they could overcome it. But you just don't know on the morning of election day whether they'll go. They are clearly feeling confident now that those people did what they thought they'd do.
If you look at
North Carolina on the screen
If you look at what ground game might end up meaning for this race, I think the biggest irony of 2020 will be the Democrats were certain that the pandemic would stop Donald Trump from being reelected, and the Democrats canceling their ground game because of the pandemic could get the president reelected.
You just said 94% chance, 95% chance by the New York Times. Can we flip back to North Carolina real quick? Because it still has Biden in the lead. If we can just jump back to that last full screen, guys.
But what these formulas do, the way these formulas work for the New York Times or the exit or the projections, the way they work is they're not just looking at the raw vote. They're looking at key precincts.
And what's
they're
left.
looking at the exit poll. They're looking at the polls of people who voted by mail. They're looking at where the vote is out.
I mean, that's 97% in. That's what we're reporting.
Everybody is very cautious because of the environment we're in. So if the New York Times is saying that, they're pretty darn
But look at
sure.
how tight that is. What is that? Is that 15? What am I? 24?
Well, it's less than.
It's less than 10,000
right now,
votes.
As of
it's less than 10,000 votes.
But they know where the vote is at, and they know
so
how
you've got less than 0.3% right now.
That is insanely
but they know.
close.
But look, I got to dovetail on what Mark said. This is crucial. After 2016, the media and the Democrats doubted the Trump campaign and the RNC working together to put together the most sophisticated data operation and ground game in political history. The biggest mistake that they made this time was not recognizing that it got stronger over the last 4 years. While Joe Biden was trying to win a Democratic primary among 25 other candidates, the RNC and the Trump campaign were focused on the general election the whole time. So you think about that. That gave them a 3-year head start of recruiting
identifying
volunteers,
people, recruiting volunteers, figuring out what would get them to vote. This is why incumbents win. Because they have 4 years to do it.
Just take a step back. Isn't this nuts?
But the
think
idea
about
that
all of the factors that have been against the president, for this to even be this close.
No, because here's the point. The Biden campaign and the media just assumed a lot of stuff. The idea that you watched it happen in 2016 and then said, by the way, let's take all of our people off the field and do this electronically just fundamentally misunderstands what happened in 2016, mechanically speaking.
Yeah. For the first time since the founding of the Republic, we've had 3 straight 2-term presidents, Clinton, Bush, and Obama. And each one learned from the previous one. How do you keep from losing? Because before them was George H.W. Bush, who lost. They all looked at that and said, if you're incumbent, the Trump campaign looked at, they had 3 things to look at, 3 templates, Clinton, Bush, Obama. And it starts with, start running right away. You know when the president filed for re-election? On Inauguration Day. Yeah. He's been running for 4 years.
I'm familiar with that day.
And this, it was what we say, a day with a huge
I wish we had focused on that.
A huge crowd. This is one of the hugest advantages an incumbent has.
Yeah.
They look, and as I said over at the board, what the president's team said was, we need more votes than we got last time to win. How are we going to get them? We're going to go find all these people.
I still stand by my statement and say this is nuts.
You got to understand something. The Trump campaign and the RNC, Chris Carr, who's the political director there, gave every single person on the campaign a copy of the Obama book, Groundbreakers. They were like, look, study this ground game. This is how Obama won. The idea that the Biden campaign that sat there and rode shotgun along to that campaign and didn't pick up the lessons, even if they pull out a win tonight, the idea that these guys pulled their people off the field and didn't realize that that's the reason they won in 2008.
They were the responsible shutdown campaign.
Right.
Okay.
Shut down the field operation.
We're going to jump back and just kind of remind everybody about the state of Florida, where this run all began, as the president looks better and better as the night goes on. Look at that number, 51-48 at this point. That's 99% in. The president winning, it looks like about almost 400,000 votes, which, as Jim McLaughlin said, is a landslide in the state of Florida, which is always tight. 29 electoral votes to the president. And what else we got in here? They want me to jump up. I am going to leave you people now and leave you in the hands of the great John Bachman, who's going to take the big chair as we take a look at Florida. Well, I guess we'll just do it like this.
I guess so, right? Before we see it, switch. Inner Sandman coming on.
I just got to get
your phone.
Let me get out of here. Let's
So,
go right ahead.
hey, FYI, Virginia now, 2430 of I mean, this is crazy.
So, welcome back, everybody. We're kind of starting a little bit early. Heather, great to be here. We got Sean Spicer, Mark Halpern kind of resetting here at the 10 o'clock hour, just a little early. Everyone excited. Great to be out here with you guys. And to start, just take a step back. If I had to ask you guys, start with you, Sean, we'll kind of go around the table here. If you had to find a good news story for Democrats at this hour, where would you look?
Pennsylvania.
In the fridge or something. I don't know that you're looking on the map because this is the problem.
Pennsylvania. You'd look at Pennsylvania because the president can win the significant six. Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, Iowa, Ohio, Texas. He can win them all of which the press said, man, this is the Democrats' year. And he still has to win Pennsylvania and Arizona. And I continue to believe Pennsylvania is going to be tough. He could win it.
There's no question it's going to be tough. But again, I think you've got to remember the narrative coming into tonight. This was going to be a blue wave. They kept talking about multiple paths to 270 and beyond. And right now, you're right. We've said this all along on this network, is that Pennsylvania is going to be key. But that's not what the Biden campaign and the mainstream media was telling people. They also told us that we were going to have a tough time. There's a good chance that the Senate got taken over. They were going to talk about the fact that that Kevin McCarthy was going to lose seats in the House of Representatives. I continue to look at Virginia. We now have 2430 of 2585 precincts in. Daniel Gade, the Republican, is up 52.6 to Mark Warner, the incumbent senator, 47.2. This was certainly not the race that the AP called at 7:01 p.m. There are multiple House races, the 2nd Congressional District down in the Norfolk Tidewater area, where former Congressman Scott Taylor is currently up 58.5 to current Congresswoman Elaine Laria's 38.5. This is not good for Democrats in a lot of states.
Yeah. Heather?
I was just say, wouldn't it be wild if President Trump ended up getting Latina voters and also African-American voters in some places, as we talk about Michigan and we talk about Florida, and then Joe Biden ends up getting the older white vote, I mean, it would just like turn everything on its head.
Well, you think back to the Growth and Opportunity Project, the autopsy report of 2012. You see, Donald Trump was never expected to be the deliverer of those objectives, but here we are, and we're seeing the results tonight.
We've talked about some of these issues before, and we've talked about how important issues are and how the press misses some of the things. I thought one of the biggest mistakes the media made in covering the president's campaign was every rally he did, every issue he talked about, that's just for the base. It's just red meat for the base. He's given up the center. For a lot of voters, getting out of Afghanistan is a centrist issue. Yeah. For a lot of voters, school choice is a centrist issue. Tax cuts, regulation, these are not base issues. These are center-right issues, which, by the way, have elected more presidents than the liberal agenda.
I'll tell you,
right?
the other
so
issue
far.
that didn't get enough attention, the press mocked Donald Trump's handling of COVID. It's not perfect, and I'm not talking about the actual handling of it, but for a lot of Americans, this goes back to this idea of openers versus closers, and it breaks down a lot on party lines. For so many people, their jobs depend on whether or not their office is open, their small business is open. Yes, if you're a government employee or employed by a big mega network in Rockefeller Center Plaza, then yeah, your job is safe and you don't care that you're teleworking. But for a lot of people who depend on going to an hourly wage job, they need that place to be open.
Or how about sending their kids back to
Let's
school?
hold that thought, because I want to talk what you were talking about earlier in the day, Mark, and that is the the backlash against establishment candidates, the anti-government sentiment we're seeing in the exit polls. I think there's some proof there that voters are blaming their local politicians for the failed pandemic response more so than the federal response. We can talk about that in a bit, but I do want to get to Emerald Robinson now, who's live with us at the White House. And Emerald, just outside of the White House, we've seen some of the video, some unrest going on there. Give us an update on the situation.
Yeah, we're hearing the choppers fly over right now. Clearly, you've been showing images of what's going on just beyond Lafayette Park. That's to my right. It's on the north side of the White House. That's near Black Lives Matter Plaza. That's where this group shut down D.C. that we've talked a lot about earlier today. That's where they've been organizing. There are some concerns about how they will react given more state wins with President Trump. It's kind of feeling like 2016 all over again in some ways, as we're seeing these good returns for the president so far. So clearly they're keeping an eye, Park Police, Secret Service, and also D.C. local police on this group and these protesters that are outside. Now, we've been cautioned that when we do leave the White House tonight that we need to be very careful. And there's some interesting things going on. I've heard Sean Spicer talking some about Virginia specifically. There's been some people in Trump land who have, in the president's orbit, who have been tweeting or texting me about what they're seeing in Virginia. So that has been an interesting story. However, there's some questions about some early ballots that might still be out there. A Fox affiliate here in the DMV region reporting that Virginia election officials had said that they're going to do a drop of about 900,000 early ballots at 11 p.m. tonight, so that could shift things a little bit. But all in all, I mean, it's getting interesting around here. It's been quiet. Everyone's just been waiting, but you can feel the tension starting to build a little bit now, especially as we've seen Florida come in and some more good news for the president. And, you know, I've heard you guys talking a lot about the media implications for this. We've long heard, for weeks now that there should be a Joe Biden landslide, and that's just not happening so far.
All right, Emerald, thanks for that update. We'll
John?
continue to check back in with you and stay safe out there. All right, let's get back now and start looking at some states. We'll break it down. We're going to go to Georgia in a second. Congressman Jody Hice, Republican there, on the ballot tonight. Polls in Georgia closed 3 hours ago at 7 p.m. They're still too close to call when it comes to President Trump. But let's focus on North Carolina, Sean, as you were saying.
I just said, just a moment ago, we've now seen just over 50 more precincts come in the last few minutes in North Carolina. There's now 2,130 precincts of the 2,662 that there is. Donald Trump has now taken the lead in North Carolina by 0.5%. It's roughly 30,000 votes in the state. But again, you're seeing this incremental shift. This is what Jason Miller, the communications director on the Trump campaign, was talking about. The shift is at least moving in his direction. Tom Tillis has now taken almost a full point lead over Cal Cunningham. So again, the direction and the movement is going in the president's direction. That's got to be good news for everyone sitting in the White House watching this go down.
Big Mo.
There's another, Big Mo is exactly what I was just going to talk about. There's another, I keep talking about psychology, so important. The president right now, I bet he wants to go out and speak and they're restraining him,
or
right?
tweet.
Or tweet. Joe Biden's team right now, they're in a panic. Here's what's going on in their heads. How are we going to pull out Pennsylvania? Did we make mistakes? Finger pointing, second guessing. I'm getting messages from them asking me what's going on, even though they've got a giant boiler room. This is a moment. This is a moment where they can actually make mistakes that impact the outcome, because one side's feeling great and confident and defying expectations, and the other side is wondering, did we blow this?
All right, let's get to Congressman Jody Hice. He's standing by right now. Congressman, great to hear from you.
Great to be with you. Thanks.
All right, so give us your boots on the ground assessment of how things are playing out in Georgia, and go Dogs, by the way.
Hey, go Dogs. Listen, it's a great night here in Georgia. We're seeing a lot of movement in the president's direction. Right now, he's at 55%. I don't see any slowing down with him in Georgia. I think unquestionably Georgia's going to go with Trump. It's going to be a great night for this state. It's going to be a great night for America.
Do you have any insight on those Senate races there?
You know, we're watching them very closely. And I don't know who all is going to be in the runoff, but things are looking great. David Perdue is very strong. He very likely could win this without a runoff tonight. The other Senate race is going to likewise very strong with both Loeffler and Collins. I don't know which one of those will be in a runoff, but we're excited the direction that this whole state is moving towards right now.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much. We will get back to you maybe a little bit later. I got an announcement to make, guys. We're going to make another call. In the Senate race, we're going to go ahead and call South Carolina. Now, for Lindsey Graham, one of the most expensive Senate races in the history of all Senate races there. Lots of outside money pouring in, Heather.
And he is such a strong, strong member of the U.S. Senate.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad to see that he is going to be staying. Some of these states that we've been talking about so far, Georgia, North Carolina, really important Senate races that Republicans are watching so carefully, not wanting to lose control of the Senate.
And just as in the presidential race, there's not anything we know right now about the Senate contest that is bad for the Republican Party. They're doing better in North Carolina than people thought. They've won South Carolina, which people thought would be competitive. And in Georgia, the incumbent looks like he may be able to survive without a runoff. John Cornyn in Texas. So right now, we're looking at Susan Collins in Maine. We're looking at the Iowa race. But Democrats could end this night not only not having gotten to 270 electoral votes, but looking at a return of the three words they most detest: Majority Leader McConnell after President Trump.
And talking about the emotional aspect of this, Sean, just how, defeating must it be for Democrats? Jamie Harrison, great candidate, $100 million pointed at. They all hate Lindsey Graham for Amy Coney Barrett, and now they know that he's going to be in the Senate for 6 more years.
Again, and it's not just, look, this is the problem. We keep talking about this. I've talked about this a lot on my show. It's a culture issue. He's been on, Jamie Harrison's been on all these late night shows. They've been talking about them. They believe that he was he's going to defeat Lindsey Graham. That's a pretty decisive victory. If he comes close to holding that, a 10-point victory after being told, he raised, what, $85 million or something that fourth quarter, something ridiculous like that?
Most ever.
And so it just shows you that, again, this is where the money and the media are getting it wrong. There is something going on in this country that the folks that are leading the big tech, big corporate America, academia, and everything else just don't get.
And it's Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the disdain that they have for Trump voters or conservatives in general, you can see it all over their faces to the point where you don't even want to watch.
Well, I think that was
a lot of news coverage because it's
that
so
Lady Gaga
snarky.
video yesterday is one of those things where, how does the campaign let that get out? Because that, I don't know, that may have been worth a few points in places
cycle,
like
Katy
Georgia.
Perry went to North Carolina. They made the same mistake with Clinton and Katy Perry on election night, and then you see Lady Gaga go dress up in camo, sit by a pickup truck, and mock Trump voters. But it's not Trump voters. That's mocking a lot of Americans who think that they're hardworking people. Again, these are these hourly wage workers, these blue-collar people, small business owners.
Hey, by the way, who doesn't like to chug a beer and then throw it down on the ground? Do you have a problem with that, Sean Spicer? I hope not.
And it's happening right now.
Yes, right before our
No, it's not just pre-election. It's not just Lady Gaga. Right now, the governor of Florida, who's a Trump populist associate, is tweeting, why are the media organizations, not NewsMax, because we projected Trump would win Florida, why are the major news organizations not saying the president's won Florida? Their view is they're trying to keep the president from having a victory, not because they're being cautious and careful in the votes very close.
I will tell you this. If you're watching Newsmax tonight, call your friends, email your friends, tell them if they want to know what's really going on in this election, tune in to Newsmax now because they're not seeing it on the other networks. They're afraid to call because they have to admit they were wrong.
We are going to talk to Governor DeSantis. He's going to join us here in about 20 minutes, so we'll get an update from him, and we'll hear from the horse's mouth why, what he's saying about that. Also now we want to get to Jeff Kaufman, who is the Iowa Republican Party chairman. Chairman Kaufman, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be here tonight.
All right, so Iowa part of the significant six, important Senate race there as well. Give us your take on how things are going there.
We sensed something special this morning. We had lines in places where people couldn't remember there being lines in those precinct buildings for 20, 30 years. We knew today that if we could add thousands to people that were voting, we knew that we were going to have a good night, and that's exactly what has happened. I really believe that the president is going to win. I think we're going to win well over 5, maybe even approaching what we did in 2016, and Joni is in a very strong position. This is a great evening tonight. You can feel it here on the ground, and I think even the Democrats sense it here.
And one of the issues for Iowa voters, specifically the trade war with China, you heard a lot of reprisals from China, specifically hitting Iowa, putting tariffs on pork imports, things like that. And a lot of people thought that was going to do Donald Trump in Iowa. It clearly didn't.
Absolutely. I mean, we had CNN and MSDNC. They were on the ground. They were finding any farmer they could find to say something negative about the president. They found a couple of organic turnip farmers, and that's about it. And the bottom line is our farmers, regardless of party, stuck with this president because they believed he was doing something that no one ever did, and that is confronting China. And he is going to be rewarded tonight with a historic victory in rural Iowa and in Iowa in general.
All right. Iowa Republican Party Chairman Jeff Kaufman, thanks so much for that. Great to see you.
Great to be here.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call Kansas right now for President Trump. We can put some more points up on the board for the president there. Kansas now in the win column for Donald J. Trump. All right, let's also check in now with Emma Reckenberg, who's following some reaction to tonight's events on social media. Emma, what do you got for us?
Hey, John, we'll start with this. President Trump gaining ground in key states like North Carolina. Here's what some of his supporters are urging voters to do on social media. Candace Owens saying this: stay in line, North Carolina. The state is ours. Mainstream media reporting on mail-in ballots early, so do not freak when you see the needles blue in the beginning. Hashtag Make America great again. Okay, journalist Trish Regan staying positive on President Trump's chances of taking North Carolina as well, tweeting this saying vote is narrowing in North Carolina, and a reminder, rural counties filing later than urban. Some good advice there. Also want to show you this. Candidate for the 11th Congressional District in North Carolina, Madison Cawthorn, poking fun at liberals for the president's success, saying cry more lib. Keep in mind, he is 25 years old and could replace Congresswoman AOC as the youngest member of the House if he wins. Latest predictions is he has a 95% chance of taking that seat, and we're going to keep you updated as the night progresses. John, I'll send it back to you.
All right, Emma, thanks so much for that. We're going to take a short break here. We'll be right back.
Millions of people in the United States suffer kidney health complications, which can be caused by calcium oxalate crystals. That's where the patented product Kidney Cop can help. Kidney Cop is so innovative, it's been awarded 5 U.S. patents. Studies show Kidney Cop reduces the rate of calcium oxalate crystal growth by 99%. Doctors all over the USA are recommending affordable Kidney Cop. Order Kidney Cop at kidneycop.com, Amazon.com, or Walmart.com.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here, and if you're on Medicare, this is important. Today is one of the only days of this year you can update your coverage and benefits. Before the deadline, you're entitled to eliminate premiums and copays and get dental care, dentures, eyeglasses, in-home aids, prescription coverage, unlimited transportation, and home-delivered meals, all at no additional cost. Plus, your zip code may have coverage with the Give Back benefit that adds money back to your Social Security check every month. Look, with the uncertainty of the virus and vaccines, you need to get everything you're entitled to. Millions of people have trusted the Medicare Coverage Helpline. You can too. Don't miss the deadline. Call now. It's free.
Call 1-800-608-9900. That's 1-800-608-9900 now.
Interactive Brokers charges 1.59% for a $100,000 margin loan. Do you know how much your broker charges? Upwards from 6.82% at Fidelity or Schwab to as high as 7.45 to 7.75% at E-Trade or Ameritrade. Move your account to Interactive Brokers and save at least $5,200 or much more if you're trading big bucks.
Wow, your credit is a mess. But it's like they say, time heals all scores. So your credit should bounce back in about 10 years.
They say a lot of things about credits. We say enough is enough. Don't let questionable negative items define your credit. Our proven process has helped our clients get unfair or inaccurate items removed from their report.
So bounce back in here in a decade.
It's time you tried something new. Get help from creditrepair.com today.
Now more than ever, it's important to lose weight, improve your health, and strengthen your immunity. Starvation dieting, processed foods, shakes, and diet gimmicks have made us heavier and sicker. The solution for losing weight the right way is Golo. We help transform your body and change your lifestyle so you can lose weight and get healthier. Over 20,000 people of all ages and entire families switch to Golo every week because Golo works. Golo is a unique approach to weight loss that targets insulin resistance and body fat. Insulin resistance makes it easy to gain weight and harder to lose it. Golo is a patented system that uses natural plants and minerals and sound nutrition to help your body convert fat to energy faster, so you lose weight while improving your health and immunity. Join over 1 million people who found Golo, a smarter way to lose weight. Let Golo help you lose weight and reach your health goals quickly. Head to Golo.com. That's Golo.com.
Being a patient with diabetes myself, I can say without question that the Dexcom system is the most powerful tool to help navigate diabetes better on a daily basis.
I love it. I just wear a little sensor and that's it. It's totally painless and private.
The Dexcom sends my glucose readings to my receiver every 5 minutes. I just pull it out of my pocket and look, and I don't have to prick my finger.
Dexcom puts you in control, not your diabetes.
All right, let's welcome you back here. Great to have everybody with us. John Bachman here. 10:20 on the East Coast here. And with us, our panel to bring you through for the next little bit here tonight on NewsMax TV. With us here, Sean Spicer, checking in on the phone there. Yep. Information coming in at all times.
We got a win in Alabama. Tommy Tuberville is the next senator from Alabama. Whoa, that's a big win. Again, making Mitch McConnell another happy man again tonight, not only for winning in Kentucky, but now putting that win, defeating Democrat Doug Jones.
And we can erase the whole Roy Moore thing, from our
I don't even remember what
memory.
you're
It never happened, right? Carl Higby's here with us. Joe Pinion also with us as well. All right, gentlemen, let's get into it. We're going to talk in a second here, but right now I want to get to Congressman Jody Arrington from Texas, who is joining us now live. Congressman Arrington, great to talk to you again, as always.
Great to be with you guys, and exciting night, and I'm hopeful that Texas, the fiercely independent, freedom-loving people in Texas are going to go all in for Trump before the night's over. Looks like things are headed that way. So I'm feeling good about the prospects here in the Lone Star State.
Congressman, just last week, Beto O'Rourke was begging Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to come to Texas because he said it was in play. Not so much, right?
Look, you cannot have a Green New Disaster policy that would regulate agriculture and fracking off the face of the planet. I mean, we're the largest ag and energy state in the country. We produce more ag and energy product than any region in the world. In my part of Texas, in West Texas, we're a border state. I mean, the president has done an exceptional job reducing illegal border crossings. So lots of promises have been made by lots of politicians on both sides. By the way, we're the largest exporting state in the union. And plenty of Democrats have said, we're going to end the giant sucking sound in Mexico stealing our jobs, but nobody did anything about it until this president came along. So there are lots of reasons on the list of things the president has accomplished and some of the radical agenda that's been propagated by presidential candidates on the Democrat side that I think will give Texas the confidence in our president having 4 more years as our chief executive.
All right, Congressman, Senator John Cornyn looking pretty good there as well. We appreciate your time, sir. Have a great night.
Thanks, John. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, guys, let's talk about Virginia and Michigan. But just, again, to take a step back, Sean, something you were saying previously about the fundamentals of this, the simplicity of, really kind of what's at play here, the ground game, the economy, the basic things that have won president's election cycle after cycle. Joe Biden and his campaign seem to get way out in front of that stuff. Donald Trump didn't forget it.
Well, look, this is the funny thing. I mean, like I said, the Obama campaign really wrote the book on it. I mean, they really understood the importance of individual contact with voters, individual data on voters. The Trump campaign and the RNC learned that lesson well, expanded it across the party under Chairman Reince Priebus, and I think the Trump campaign executed it beautifully. You had a candidate with a message that utilized the mechanism and the mechanics that the RNC had to offer for a winning formula. The Biden campaign lost track of the fact that the Obama campaign handed it to him on a silver platter. Right. They literally wrote a book on it. And they took their guys off the field and said, we're not going to do this door to door. We're going to do it virtually. There's nothing that can replace that personal contact, knocking on a door. You can do it safely in COVID, but someone's going to tell you a lot more in person than they will on an email survey. You can read their face, find out how many more people are in there. Are they going to vote earlier and often? Who influences them? All that information, all that data is so crucial because it gets sucked back in, and you can put someone off the board and go, hey, by the way, they had a Trump campaign sign. They had a Biden sign. That's a lot more of a committed voter than someone who, responds back to an email and says, I'm probably going to vote for Biden. Someone who's putting that sign in the ground or telling you that they're willing to volunteer or giving you their personal information. The Biden campaign, if they lose by 3 points in a lot of these states, that's going to be to blame for it.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I think there's also some more fundamental things like, in Florida, what do you think is going to happen when you wave a flag of Che Guevara, in South Florida? We're all surprised by the results a little bit in Miami-Dade County, but when you flirt with these radical elements, there's going to be a reaction, and that's what we're seeing.
But also, look, as I mentioned earlier, you had the governor of Puerto Rico. She came out and endorsed Donald Trump. No one in the mainstream media took notice of that, right? They kept saying, well, Trump's getting into a fight with the mayor of Apologies.
Well, I mean, even to that point, I mean, it looks like if there is a canary in the coal mine, we talked about this a little earlier, it seems we could be talking about a Hispanic exodus from the Democratic Party. I mean, we're looking at some of these exit numbers. You're looking at exit polls, not that we're finalized right now, but 40% Hispanic vote for President Trump in Texas, 37% in Georgia, 47%
But Joe,
in
how
Florida.
can that possibly be
He's
true?
a racist,
How
John.
can that possibly be true?
Okay,
His tweets, Joe.
Well, look, at the end of the day, it turns out that, to your point, you can learn a lot more by talking to people at their door than you can online. When you talk about going to somebody's door and seeing if they've got a Trump beanie on their head in their house, in their living room before dinner at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's a committed voter versus somebody that you assume is going to vote for a particular candidate simply because of the color of their
All
skin.
right, guys, let's get to Professor Alan Dershowitz now, who's standing by. Professor Dershowitz, we were just talking kind of about maybe some of the fundamental things the Democratic Party may have missed this election cycle, something they should have clearly seen or learned from in 2016. As a Democrat, you know, obviously you supported President Trump on some things here, but when you look at your party and the way they chose to position themselves in this campaign, are you surprised by what we're seeing early on this evening?
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing anything definitive, but I think the Democrats did not resist the temptation to move left and to satisfy the squad and the most extreme elements of that party. I think that they became far too close to some of the radical elements in Black Lives Matter and others, Antifa. And I think that President Trump has somehow managed to persuade voters, whether correctly or incorrectly, that if you vote for the Democrats, you're voting for lawlessness, you're voting for kind of the street rather than the courts. And I think they may have overplayed their hands in that direction. I don't think this night is over. I think the massive turnout.
Nobody's saying that, but there have been some early surprises so far. We got a long way to go.
The big turnout is helpful for the Democrats. Look, I'm a Florida voter, and I really thought that that Biden had a chance of taking Florida, and I do think that that the Biden people miscalculated the Latino vote. They didn't emphasize enough the diversity among the Latino voters, distinguishing between older and younger Cuban voters and Puerto Rican voters. You know, the Democrats sometimes victims of their own identity politics.
And
They
Professor
see
Dershowitz,
things
even
in terms of race and ethnicity, and that's a mistake.
And we saw the Democrats send, you know, their ace down there, Barack Obama, yesterday to try and shore up, or a couple days ago to try and shore up South Florida, and he did not get the job done, apparently. Great info there, Professor Dershowitz. We'll be back with you coming up later. And we will also come back a little bit later with Governor Ron DeSantis, who will be with us to give us his assessment. We talked to him earlier today. He predicted a big win for President Trump in Florida. Turns out he was right. We'll talk to the governor next.